Oh, okay. I have 3 acres out here. They get pretty fall.
Good, good.
Hi there. Can't wait to get that baseball field in, huh, Wes?
Well, the church is doing a good job.
Well, that's all right. And they got a nice one there. Yeah. I mean, that's a little different to the church. And they won't allow them to play the other one, they're too good for them, or what? That other ballpark that they put on 59.
That's probably full of the same guy. So they probably, as he looks to it. Well, he's gonna make money on it. Yeah. Because I do. He's installing it. It's an engine. Then he parks, gets the ball. Big deal.
They have a big football field.
Yeah, but not all the baseball. It's the time to surface, don't feel it available as long as they are. I talked to a guy in the parking lot of the other one the other day. Yeah, you're a traffic bank that we drive over here. Big house, big data.
Yeah.
They also
That's what they are mad at. They don't shut off at 10 because what if they're in night?
Well, this guy said there. You don't know.
Yeah. And then they have drinking. Then they have drinking.
I didn't see that. He tried, I don't think they got it.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, I was there. That should be. I know they tried, but I didn't, I walked past it. Without being. I didn't see. That's because you mentioned. That's a different thing. Patrick Lavler, illegal?
Nice. Real nice.
I can't finish.
Go right ahead.
You got a project there, that's for sure. Yeah, I seeded some things too,
Yeah.
and it's, the weather's good for seed somewhat. This cold weather that was kind of holding it back.
How are you?
Ah, that's a good idea too.
They have what they call yeah, you can get cedar,
Clear cedar.
Okay.
and
I heard.
what that'll do.
I grabbed her.
Yeah, I got something on it.
We just had it
I have
after,
to do it every 2 years.
yeah.
But when I need.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy with it. About 15 minutes.
Okay. And what kind of septic? not a mountain. Conventional? Do they put more than one breathing thing in? Sometimes I see a couple of them. What is that?
Two vents in the end,
Okay.
two traps. And then there's a new, looks like a hot catch basin.
I don't know what I did with it, but I don't have it.
And how do you clean that?
Just with a hose.
It's not,
The gas mask and a hose.
yeah, I guess not. It might be just in the right.
Good evening, everybody. I've got 5:55. Welcome to the town of Waukesha, special town board meeting beginning at 5:55 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Supervisor Durr,
Here.
Supervisor Fisher,
Here.
Chairman Merrick,
Present.
Supervisor Radke,
Here.
Supervisor Wolf.
Here. And Madam Clerk, have we met the opens meeting law?
Yes, we have.
And we can begin with citizens' comments. Seeing none, we can move on to confirming of Plan Commission appointments. If there's no objection, we can take these both at once. Sure, please.
It's been brought to my attention that when the first appointments were made to the Plan Commission, I had relied on a state statute that says that the town chairman shall appoint the Plan Commission members. That same statute says that the town board can by ordinance decide how the Plan Commission is appointed. The town has an ordinance that says that the town chair shall appoint the Plan Commission members. And there's a Supreme Court case that says you can rely on the ordinance that says that the town chairman shall appoint the Plan Commission members. What I was not aware of, but has been brought to my attention, is that there is another state statute in conflict with all that I relied on that says that we should have the town board confirm the appointment of the town chairman. So as not to research it anymore and to spend any more time and not to have any problems in the future with the appointments, I've recommended that they reappoint the two members to the Plan Commission and tonight and re-swear them in so there's no challenge. But there were 4 reasons that I relied on, but there's a question as to whether a more specific statute might override those decisions. But I take full blame for the opinion that I gave. I believe one of yourselves asked me, why are we swearing them in if we don't have to? And I said, well, it doesn't appear that you have to confirm it based on your ordinance, and I relied on your ordinance and the rest of the history that I knew about the situation. But my recommendation now is that we have the chairman appoint and the board confirm that appointment.
Is there a motion?
Somebody gonna make it?
I will move to confirm the appointment of the chairman of Renee Ramirez to the Plan Commission. I so move.
And Ken Miller? Do you want to take them separately?
Sure, and Ken Miller.
Is there a second?
And the motion should include Renee Ramirez for a 3-year term and Ken Miller for a 1-year term.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just a question about the procedure. So what does that do to our previous appointments?
We can go back and look at that, but it wasn't raised at the time, so I don't know that we've relied on it. But if there's any question, the clerk will go back and look. It would have only been 1 year. I was only here 1 year, so.
Okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
And a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Welcome, everybody, to the Town of Waukesha Plan Commission and Joint Public Hearing with the Town Board, May 12th, 2016, beginning at 6:02 PM. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Brian Fisher,
Here.
Bob Stigler,
Here.
Ken Miller. Renee. Ramirez. Al White.
Here.
Bob Flanagan.
Here.
And Chairman Merrick.
Present. And Madam Clerk, have we met the opens meetings law?
Yes, we have.
And we can begin with citizens' comments. Seeing none, we can move on to open the public hearing. Noted. Oh, I'm sorry. No, not yet. Open the public hearing. The joint public hearing involving the Town of Waukesha Plan Commission and Waukesha Town Board will be held on Thursday, May 12th, 2016, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Waukesha Town Hall located at West 250, South 3567 Center Road, Waukesha, Wisconsin, to hear proposed zoning change and the request of Tom Kelnick of South 20 West 27809 Kame Terrace, Waukesha, Wisconsin, for a rezone of a portion of the property located at South 52 West 24082 Glendale Road from A1 to B2. Lands to be rezoned being part of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter section 27 Township 6 North Range 19 East, Town of Waukesha, Waukesha County, Wisconsin, bounded and described as follows: commencing at the northeast corner of southeast quarter section 27, thence south 31 degrees 37 east along the east line of said southeast, southeast quarter section 27, 816 feet, 0.96 feet, thence south 89 degrees 32:43 west, 350.56 feet to the place of the beginning of the lands to be described, thence continuing south 89, 32:43 west, 33 feet, thence 88:02:45 west, 441.06 feet, thence north 00:34:22 west, 305 feet, 0.81, thence north 88:02:45 east, 362.87 feet, thence south 24:30:14 east, 221.08 feet, then southeasterly 104.93 feet along the arc of a curve whose center lies to the west, whose radius is 250 feet, and whose chord bears south 12:28:46 east, 104.17 feet to the place of the beginning. Said lands containing 3 acres of land, more or less. All interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard, and the public hearing is open. Feel free to speak your mind.
Hi, my name's Mary Bork, and we've lived in the town for 40 years. We live right off of Glendale, east of 164.
Could I get your address for the clerk, please?
Yes, W238, S for South 5370, Chestnut Trail. Spelling on my last name is B as in boy, O-U-R-Q-U-E. I just had a couple questions and a couple comments. Unless I'm out of the loop, I feel like, why did we find out about this by reading the head? I also wonder about what happened to neighborly situations when they built Kinsey Pet Hospital, they came around to our neighborhood and asked us our opinion and whatever about building it. We have a neighbor that put up a very large garage. He had to follow town rules and send us letters that we could comment about him adding this large garage, like a 3-car garage. And I'm just wondering what happened to neighborly situations of the people that want to do this coming to us on their own as neighbors because they want to build this right close to us in our neighborhood. And what would it hurt to come to us first and say, we're looking at this, instead of us reading it as a headline in the Freeman. And I really felt that the Freeman's article was totally informational, positive to this situation. There wasn't anything written in that article about any of the citizens in the town or people who live close by and the negative aspects. I'm for it. I would rather see that than businesses, than a strip mall. So the baseball diamonds, I think, is a great idea, but my other concern is how are they going to enter? Are they going to enter off of Glendale, or are they going to put a driveway off of 164? And that intersection's going to be super busy. My husband even suggested, well, then put in a roundabout. I like roundabouts, but I don't think Wisconsin drivers know how to drive them because it's 15 miles an hour. Anyway, those are concerns, traffic, entrance, that way. And I'm concerned if there's wetlands around the area that they want to do this, if they're keeping that in mind with the wetlands. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Tom Plummer, Plahmer, West 239, South 5500 Chestnut Trail. And I'm opposed to the ball field. First of all, it used to be Highway F, a 2-lane highway, and it was very nice and quiet and calm. Now we have a freeway going from the freeway to Waukesha. If it's not the freeway, it's the trains. The trains are a mile away from my house, and the trains sound like they're across the street. They're so noisy. And all I can see is a congestion on the corner of Glendale and 164. I can see noise coming from the area. And my one question is, this is a duplicate or somewhat of a duplicate of the other baseball field. What is the town of Waukesha gaining from the other one? We getting what, $50,000 in taxes? 700? That's not a hell of a lot for all of the effort that's going into this. So from my standpoint, I am not in favor of it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Kolba, West 249, South 5090, Glendale Road. I have, as I've told this board before, I've been up here, I have no objection to, people can do whatever they want on their land as long as they don't disturb others. And rezoning it for me is not an issue as long as other controls are present. I live in a town, I don't want to see light pollution. I don't want to hear this, I don't want to hear baseball sounds coming through. I live 3/4 of a mile away from the property now. And when they have their animal pulls and that, which occur like every other month or something sometimes. You can hear that like it's in my backyard. So those kind of issues I have, but also the road itself, although Glendale Road is nicely done, it has ATVs running up and down it all the time. It has go-karts running up and down all the time. There was just an accident at the railroad tracks from people trying to jump it. It's not made to handle a large volume, and you're increasing the amount of volume dramatically, I feel. You know, like I said, ball diamond one way or another, as long as it can be controlled, I have no issues with it, but I think those issues need to be addressed somehow. Thanks.
Thank you. Why don't we take a short break, and Mr. Kelnick, why don't you, there seems to be some confusion about what the development is going to be, what it entails, whether it's indoor or outdoor, or if there's going to be lights. Why don't you take a couple of minutes and just explain that to us? Please.
To you or
To us.
to you?
Yes.
I believe it's approximately about 4,100 square feet or 41,000 square feet. There is absolutely no baseball activities or anything else done outside of the building. I know there's been some stuff out there that we're putting baseball fields out there, and that's not the case. It is a building. It's all indoor, nothing outdoor. I believe there's 80 parking stalls roughly. The organization that's going to be renting the facility has approximately 8 teams in the whole organization. Roughly that makes about with coaches. It will be open to the public. It's the way we have it designed is you can play baseball in it, you can play soccer in it, you can play lacrosse in it, and you can also go there and hit golf balls. Inside of the facility will be golf netting, ceiling and walls. Very few offices, 2 restrooms, no locker rooms, all really athletic turf inside the building. Outside of that, like I said, there's nothing going on outside. There's nothing going on outside of the building besides parking.
What type of lighting will you have? The parking lot obviously will be lit.
Right, there's 4 wall lights that was, I believe, in your packet the last time. There's no light poles anywhere on our parcel. So the photometrics have been turned in. Once you get out to the edge of the parking lots, it's 0. There's no amplification system. It's a building. Everything's done indoors.
Ma'am? Ma'am? You'll have to come up to the microphone, name and address for the clerk.
Anything else?
Any questions for Mr. Kelnick while he's
There
up?
was a question by Ms. Bork, and I apologize, as to where the access will be. So that would be an appropriate question for him to answer at this moment. Where's the access to the facility contemplated to come from?
Glendale Road.
There is no access proposed off of 164 at this time
That's correct.
for the development of this property. And then, Madam Clerk, as long as we're here, the notice was given pursuant to the state,
Yes, at 300 feet from the property line, every property owner was sent a letter, certified mail, within the 300 feet.
Any other questions for Mr. Kelnick while he's up?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's resume with other comments.
Anthony Camamilli, South 52 West 23822 Glendale Road. Well, I appreciate the gentleman's concerns about the light, and that won't be external fields. That's good to hear. But one of the things that drew me to this area is one of the more recent residents in the last 3 years. And I've looked at a lot of the other people my age that have moved to your township and are looking to get involved in it. is we like the quietness of it, the slight rural feel, the small community. What I don't see is what this gains, what effectively is my neighborhood. What are we gaining out of it? We're not really gaining any tax base. I'm told it's about $700 a year. Me and my neighbors pay 5 times that individually. So if this has any negative impact on our properties or our families or our neighbors, there's really no positives for us. I live east of where the facility will be built. Traffic is already difficult to get onto 164 to cross there to turn. I can't see how this is going to improve it. I don't see how we could possibly increase the intersection to any realistic size for cost to improve the situation. This really, to me, seems like something that would be better fit into an industrial park or a commercial setting of that nature. So, thank you.
Good evening. Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road in the town of Waukesha. In general, I'm opposed to another sports complex in the town of Waukesha, particularly because this one is a mere 3,600 feet or so from the new one going in at the Fox River Christian Church, and only about 10,000 feet from Infinity Fields on Les Paul Parkway as the crow flies. Could this land not be put to a different use with a greater assessment and tax base? But my objection is limited in the same sense as I was opposed to another drugstore, which was proposed a few years back for the southwest corner of St. Paul and Sunset Drive. And at the time I wrote, I'm not at all opposed to Walgreens or Aldi specifically. And actually, I'm not opposed to the baseball building. But I feel that the intersection in question, in this case, the Aldi thing, is blighted enough and that the community, city or town does not need to add to the mess, nor to mention the CVS just blocks away and 2 other Walgreens, each within literally 2.33 miles of that intersection. It's never been about the need for a Walgreens or Aldi. It's about land development. I dare say the town of Waukesha will soon adopt the moniker Mini Cooperstown, just as the city of Waukesha is Guitar Town. And what will these 3 complexes bring the city, or the town, I should say, in additional tax revenue? Virtually nothing. Now let me reverse my position. Our town chairman has already publicly stated his support for Mr. Kelnick's new facility, and there is no reason from this speaker's perspective to expect anything but agreement with the chairman from the Plan Commission members. So I offer 2 things. First, I see the rezoning and plan of operation as foregone conclusions, so please don't dilly-dally with our time or your time. You will vote, and I suspect you do. Then please just get on with it. And second, I noticed that this plan of operation calls for the facility to be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Let me hearken back to Supervisor Fisher. Supervisor Fisher's comments regarding the plan for 5 Diamonds when he said, "Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it." Let's be serious. Why does this application's plan of operation put such limiting hours on the new proposed facility? The hours for the indoor facility at Infinity Fields on Les Paul Parkway are 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be open during those hours. It just means you can be open during those hours. And we all know how right Fisher was, and that even the hours expanded at that time proved to be insufficient in the end. I'm borrowing from Supervisor Fisher's comments from years ago and recommending that this plan of operation be amended to seek the greatest possible time frame that could be conceived of, and certainly no less than what is in place at NX level facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Brown. I've been a town of Waukesha resident for 27 years, a taxpayer for the last 12. I'm not only speaking on my behalf, but I'm speaking on behalf of my husband and my 2 boys. I have a 9-year-old and 11-year-old. My address is South 44, West 27, 616 Elk Valley Road. One thing that I wanted to say is that I think what's going in or what can go in is a positive building. Is not only is it possible or positive for my young boys and my family in particular, there's a ton of baseball and that is being played in Waukesha now, which is such a positive thing for these youth. It is teaching them to be hard workers. And that carries over not only in sports, that carries over to their education as well. My son has played for Sticks, both boys have. I've been to the Sticks facility that has been out in Oconomowoc, and just judging off of traffic that's been there. Now, the old facility was based, and I know this is not just a Sticks facility, but the old facility was based behind Olympia, which there's apartments back there. There's just a very hard area to get into. And the traffic has always been smooth. There hasn't really been more than 20 cars. Traffic hasn't been an issue. And as far as noise, it is all indoor. It is all not affecting, I think, the public the way people think. They're thinking in their minds, it's a ball field. It's all indoor. It's not going to be noisy. There's no loudspeakers. There's no lights, nothing like that. I think that the town of Waukesha to approve something like this is a positive step. It's a growth. That's what this community needs, always to be growing. You can't stay stagnant and not allow anything to happen. Coonsey Hospital being there for the pets is a wonderful thing. The Fox Valley Church being there. They have a program for kids too that's an upward basketball. They have a lot of sports in the church where there's probably more traffic for actually the church activities than there is for a facility like this. So I don't think to compare, what's going on with the indoor facility, you would have to look at what's being provided by the church and them wanting to build ball fields and basketball courts. It's not any different than that. Actually, I think it's far less for traffic and noise. I also wanted to say that I think that this fits well for what our town needs. We don't really have anything like this. Yes, there's a next level, but that is for athlete training. That is for building strength, building agility. This is for skill building. This is for golf. This is for lacrosse. This is for the actual activity, not the strength and conditioning of it. So I would like it to be passed looking at friends of ours that are from the community, knowing that there is a need for this building and knowing that during the day, even senior citizens could go golf and get out of the house, do something positive and not be stuck at home in the winter when they could be golfing. So I just wanted to say that I hope it's approved. It's a positive thing for the community. I don't think the traffic or the noise would be any problem. Thank you.
Hi,
Good evening.
Terry Bork, West 238, South 5370, Chestnut Trail. Also been here since '76. This is a social concern here, and I don't have a business model, but I don't know why Sunday has to be sports and not family. So having hours on Sunday from 8 to 10, I'm not debating it. I'm just saying we're not back to basic family activities. You don't have to go to church if you don't want to go to church. But I think we're rushing way into too much competitive stuff. Bring it down to the level where the kids have athletics with school and with outside programs, but they also have time to be with a family if that can happen. And why is not Sunday regarded that way anymore? And you don't have to answer that. It just bothers me in retirement that we're all rushing to go somewhere and we don't have time to be together.
So the family structure is falling apart. And it's not directed at anyone, it's directed at our society. But when we allow facilities to have their, it's their business, they can run it. People don't want to come, they don't have to come on Sunday. But it bothered me that Sunday has to be a sports activity or training day of the week. I don't know why the fields were mentioned in the paper, but to have 4 baseball fields, I figured we couldn't do that on 3 acres. So that brought me here because I was concerned about septic and well and how you take care of that by the facility size. I'm sure there's rules that you follow with that and building codes. I'd like to see the building plan, or I'm sure you will, of what it's going to look like. I really don't like the pet store that's closed now, the pole barn effect. So architecturally, I think that would be something to be considered as people go back and forth on that 164. And if we have to put a traffic light up, who pays for that?
Yeah.
My roundabout idea would slow down the 65-mile-an-hour traffic going between 43 and Sunset. I'm not saying you want a roundabout, but those are expensive. So do we do that? Or does the developer say, oh, I can handle that because it's going to be a burden. Let me take care of that. I don't think they would. They probably couldn't afford it. So that's just my comment. I'm surely wouldn't want an adult bookstore there in contrast. And I hope you wouldn't let that happen. But it could happen. I know there is one in somewhere off of Pearl, that's a business. So I like the idea of athletics, but I don't like the hours. And Sunday would be a restriction I would like to see put on it.
Thank you.
That's it. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Mary Bork again. That was a comment that I thought in the paper that I feel that the Freeman just interviewed you and the plans and whatever, and I thought it was interesting that you said Sunday through Monday or Monday to Sunday, and I'm like, why don't you just say 7 days a week instead of, because it makes people think, oh, maybe there's a day where they're not going to do it. You have to think about how that wording was, and I thought that was interesting. And I also don't think why you have to have 7 days a week, 8 in the morning till 10 at night. I mean, that's constant. And we've always said I'd rather have the churches too. The churches are awesome to have, but there's tons of traffic with that. Maybe consider not having baseball on Sunday because you have the Bible church and all the cars in and out. But my big concern is too, and you're saying how many people are going to use that can be in there at one time. You're talking 80, did you say 80 people or 80 kids? That's a lot of people using a bathroom for well and septic. We just had to pay and have a new septic system put in after 40 years. And everybody knows water's the huge issue. You're just going to dig a well and that's going to take care of it? I don't know. I question that too. I'm concerned about that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you. The following is being submitted by my wife Colleen, who changed jobs a year ago and works Thursday nights, which is why I haven't been here very much on Thursday nights. And she writes, I think that it is a great idea for Tom Kelnick to build a new athletic complex on the northwest corner of Glendale Road and Highway 164. As one of the closest neighbors to Kelnick's current facility on Les Paul Parkway, I'm sure that his new neighbors at the Glendale Road facility will enjoy their new neighbors as much as we do. And I truly hope that the new facility will also have the benefit of 70-foot lights so that the kids can enjoy making memories, playing ball under them. The sounds of the bats, the bright lights, and the cheering crowds have added so much to our dark and quiet property. I saw a letter that former town supervisor Mr. Everett German distributed that claimed that Mr. Kelnick's new complex would have a negative impact and that it would add nothing to the town's tax base. I find it interesting, but I don't remember former Supervisor German saying anything like that when Mr. Kelnick was planning his development next to my property. What I do recall is all the talk about the positive impact due to the increased sales at the local hotels, restaurants, and gas stations with all of the families visiting the town of Waukesha during tournaments. Certainly that increase in local sales is a measurable statistic and should be reviewed to assess the additional positive effect that the new development can have for our town. Mr. German also mentioned the significant increase in traffic the new facility is sure to generate, but he should rest assured when he sees how smoothly cars seem to come and go from the Infinity Fields complex. It is possible that Mr. German might feel differently this time around because this is his backyard, but he should try to keep in mind that it's all about the kids. Thank you.
Good evening.
David German, South 53 West 24395 Glendale Road. Yeah, on behalf of my dad, a lot of that was stated, but also go ahead and put this in, but why don't they use the easement off of 164 that was given to him back in 98, I believe? And why is it going to be 5 businesses on a 16-foot wide private drive and then a residence also with no stop sign? And also it's going to be an acre large building, which most people in here probably have about an acre to acre and a half, and 40 feet tall with no stone structure, no nothing on it.
Thank you. Mr. Kellick, maybe you could address the access concerns and how wide the driveway is for the access to the property.
The entrance off of Glendale Road is 48 feet in width at the entrance. The road is measured 25 feet 6 inches from south to north. There's a 3'6" wide stone shoulder on the east shoulder with some inconsistencies, but for the most part, it's 3'6". And then on the west side, it's about a 2-foot stone shoulder. Very consistent though, unlike the other side.
So is this gonna be a public road or private?
But you have to up to the microphone each time, please.
It's definitely not,
when he's done.
it's definitely not a 16-foot road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is this a private access or is this going to be a town road?
It's a question for staff. Private access.
Currently, it's private and it will remain so.
A private access with 5 businesses and a residence.
I don't know the exact number, but yes, it's private.
Okay.
At this point, Mr. Chairman, I think we should at least remind the Plan Commission members and the Town Board members, that this is a public hearing on the rezoning. But I think it's important to get all of the facts and all of the information out, and I think the comments are well received. But make sure we get everything in the record about the rezoning. The other issues are also on the agenda, but this is the opportunity for the public to speak. So if they want to speak on any of the other aspects like they have, the architectural and things, they didn't do it under citizen comment, they won't get another opportunity later. But for the commission, we will be closing, and the town board, on the public hearing on the rezoning, and you'll be making your recommendations at your meetings and the actions. There are other action items on the agenda, so I think the comments from the citizens are important, and we should get all of those comments in. But again, it's on the rezoning that we're here. They're asking for approximately 3 acres of land to be rezoned exactly the same as the vet clinic, I believe the boarding stable, and the warehouse food property. So, and the property owner has asked not to rezone the entire parcel because they want to keep the remainder of the property in ag. They could have asked to rezone the entire parcel, which is 24 acres, I apologize, 20 acres, 28 acres, but they've only asked for 3 acres for this portion of it. The rest of it, in order to be developed as a continuation of a business park, would have to come back for another rezoning hearing, or unless it's a permitted use. So we just wanted to make it clear what exactly this public hearing is for, but I think we're willing, Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding you'll take comments on any aspect of the project, even though it's very limited as to what the public hearing is on. We want to hear the citizens' concerns.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mary Bork again. Sorry, I keep thinking of stuff. Parking lot, asphalt for how many cars? 80 cars. I'm concerned about runoff with that also. Consider gravel or something else, but we personally do not have our driveway at our home paved with cement or asphalt because of runoff. And if you've got a parking lot for 80 cars, I'm concerned about runoff. And I do think there is wetlands around that area. Or I see it right on 164. And there's like a pond just east of where you're talking about. So please consider that. Keep that in mind too. I'm concerned about our environment, well, septic, and runoff. Thank you.
Perhaps it'd be appropriate for either Planner Ray Barczyk or Engineer Janelli to address the wetlands and stormwater management.
Certainly, thanks. I had a conversation yesterday with Alan Barrows at the county, who's in essence in charge of reviewing stormwater erosion control for the site. There's a wetland that's been delineated kind of in the Kettle area. They're staying, I think, like 80 some feet away from the wetland, which is what Alan's was looking for. So he's satisfied with that. From a stormwater and runoff perspective, the site is internally drained. And so from that perspective, from a quantity of water, Alan doesn't have any concerns. I think he's going to look for some calculations from the applicant at some point. From a water quality perspective, the applicant's providing some infiltration areas on site to hold and retain small amounts of water and infiltrate it into the ground so it doesn't become runoff. And so it, in essence, helps clean what does discharge. They're currently in the works, working with the county to deal with erosion control and stormwater management. And obviously the project cannot move forward without those approvals. So those are in the works at this point.
Evening.
Good evening. Millette Krzyzanowski, West 254, South 4360 Pin Oak Lane. I'm just a little confused about who the property owner is because all I see is Mr. Kelnick's name on this, requesting the zoning change. I don't know, is he going to be purchasing this 3 acres and that's why he wants it rezoned as a condition of repurchasing? Is the original owner going to be maintaining this and just leasing out this land? And then you're going to build 1 acre metal structure like they have over for the NX thing, that when that was debated and we were assured that this metal building would not be seen from the road and it was very appropriate and it would be a great addition to the town. It's an eyesore and a monstrosity every time you drive down the bypass, and I can see it from my car, no problems, winter or summer. So now you're proposing another great big metal pole barn that won't have any architecture or style to it. It'll just be a thing where the kids can play indoor baseball year round, or you can golf or whatever, which is fine. There's needs for those facilities. But does our town always have to look like, you know, the second cousin? You guys never require any architectural style or anything, and then the tax base you're going to get from this business is minimal. It doesn't really add, and it's not going to help anybody. If anything, it's going to increase it because you're going to need more paving on Glendale Road to take care of the extra structure of the traffic and everything. Who knows, it may need traffic lights there. It's going to cost the town a lot of money to maintain the roads, more than you're going to collect in taxes. And then we'll have to drive past it and look at this ugly building that's going to be metal and not have any brick, any, you know, a couple windows at the top or wherever they put it. Maybe they don't want windows at the top there either. Maybe, who knows what, just at the door. And that's what our town, by your design and your precedences you have already set, this is all our town deserves. We don't get better than that because you won't ask for it. Thank you.
Let me clarify your question if I could. Is your question who currently owns the property or
No.
who's going to own the property?
Who's going to own the property?
Okay. Mr. Kelnick, if you would, and there's a couple of questions there. Who is going to own the property as you move forward? And perhaps, do you have any renderings of the property and what the material is going to be made out of?
The drawings that we turned in.
Do you have, ma'am, you should sit down while the petitioner speaks. Do you have renderings with you though?
I actually have a panel of what we're going to use. This is a metal panel, but it's going to be 100% EFIS. I think I showed some of the board members last time. The town's ordinance requires 50% of the front of the building, I believe, to be in a natural or EFIS state. The entire building, front, sides, back, will be in EFIS. So we far exceed what the town's requirements are. So, I mean, from a visual perspective, it is not a metal building.
Let's talk about taxes for a moment. Have you gotten the assessment for your annex level sports building yet?
I did.
And what is that assessment?
Approximately about 2.1 million.
So if I do some quick math.
Mr. Chairman, I looked up some of that information yesterday, if you're interested.
Would you please?
Um,
Microphone?
It's on.
Okay, sorry.
Don't scare me now.
No.
It was just an assessment.
Far too low. Mr. Kelnick's property on Highway 59 prior to the wall diamond construction was paying approximately, and I'll only speak in terms of town taxes, not total tax bill, just town taxes, was paying about $750 a year in town taxes. Since he opened the ball diamonds in 2012, and therefore I think starting in 2013, his tax bill has been $1,500 to the town, give or take a couple of dollars on either side of that. The tax bill and the assessment for the addition of the building has not yet been completed. The assessment might have been completed, but the additional tax revenue to the town has not been realized yet because that was just completed this year. The property at the existing ball diamond was assessed for tax purposes last year at $825,000 or $30,000. So I don't know what it'll come out at this year, but it'll be substantially higher than that. And whatever multiple it increases will be the increase in, I'm assuming, his town taxes. As for the existing property, it's zoned A1, and if I'm not mistaken, that property is paying about $1,100 or between $1,100 and $1,200 a year in town taxes. So whatever the assessed value of the building that goes on it, that'll determine what the future tax bill is. I'm sorry? That could be for the whole 28 acres, yes. So that's the information that I gathered over the last couple of days. A couple of about the tax revenue issue, so that's why I looked into it.
So if we do some quick math, the total tax bill at the current facility is at an $886,000 assessment is
830 assessed, 856 approximately equalized.
Okay.
Just so we don't disagree with the number
Sure.
that was proffered before you stepped out.
which brings a total tax bill, not town, of $10,000 and change. If we do some quick math,
And while you do that, Mr. Kelnick, you represented that you had received notice from the assessor that the proposed assessment as of January 1st, 2016 was 2.1 million. Did I hear you correctly? And was it fully constructed on that date, or was it a partial?
No, done.
Done. Thank you.
is that just for the annex level sports building, or is that the property in total?
Property in total.
Okay. So you're going to have an increase of
two. I mean, you're gonna go
He's
from,
also assessed, so you got to compare assessed to assessed. He can't be equalized because we don't know what the equalized is.
But you're gonna be roughly in the neighborhood of about $23,000 in total taxes, and town taxes are gonna be roughly in the neighborhood of about $3,300. Off the top of my head figuring. And I would suppose that we're gonna see a similar assessment and tax bill at a similar size building off of Glendale. So the $700 that's been bantered about for taxes is not an accurate number. Any other public comments?
Mary Bork again, sorry. I was thinking, is the Freeman here? I'm referring to that article that was front page headline news. And that article being totally,
Ma'am, you have to address the board. We don't.
Sorry.
You can yell at the Freeman all you want, but
okay,
tell us,
okay, sorry. It was totally geared to the development. Like I said before, very positive. And I even questioned, they said, oh, and we even talk about, oh, what will it do for the town? It'll bring these people and families. Tell me what hotels and what restaurants and what stores are in the town. The city has taken over everything. The city has all the businesses. They're the ones that are going to benefit from the number of people. We as a town aren't going to benefit, especially if the tax base, if the taxes are so low. How is it benefiting us? Just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Anthony Camomilli again. I missed it, but in the future. I heard plans about the exterior and things of that nature.
Well, we can get him to answer that question, sure.
I know it was asked, but I didn't hear the answer.
Mr. Kelnick?
I will own the property with a partner.
Okay.
It's been suggested that in many cases, we're possibly lucky that a very small portion of this property is looking to be rezoned for this commercial application. It could be reviewed in the future and expanded from the sound of it. My concern would be is this would sort of become an anchor property to expand possibly more athletic facilities in the future. If it is successful, obviously you want most businesses to be successful. I think most of us in the community have less concerns about the veterinary clinic that was put there. It's alongside a resident. Also the pet food store, which is I think now out of business, was also fairly small. Neither of these were very tall structures. They weren't the sort of thing that you saw from your backyard. I can say that from my backyard, I'll definitely see a 40-foot building.
Perhaps Planner Rybarczyk, what is the long-range land use plan from both the county and the town for the entire parcel?
Yeah, the future land use map that was adopted in 2009 is up on the wall there. And I think that maybe some of the residents in the town are not aware, but pretty much every intersection along 164, the future development. And this full 28 acres has been slated since 2009 as commercial development. So there is a potential that, additional businesses within the B1, B2, or B3 could move into this location. I think it's obvious when DOT did the improvements to 164, they even put in a left turn lane about mid-parcel or midway on this property, because at that time, the town was assuming that it was going to be commercial development. So, the petitioner is just kind of following the future land use plan that the town has had in place in 2009 for commercial development. And the B2 zoning that the veterinary clinic has in the former pet warehouse fall in that B2 zoning, as do private recreational facilities fall within the B2 zoning as well. So there is definitely potential, I think, for the additional 16 acres to develop in some commercial means. I do think that there's probably potential for the private driveway to go from Glendale Road back out to 164. But to determine how many more uses can be on that 16 acres would be dependent on when the Kunzis decide they want to develop that, or if another developer comes in and purchases a remaining lot or remaining acreage, what they would want to develop.
You mentioned 16 acres. Is the 16 acres net of the wetlands? Is that where you came up with that number?
It's actually, I take it back. It's 16 acres plus an additional 5 acres that the Kunze Vet Clinic is. But yes, it is, also includes the wetlands.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the clarity.
Yes, sir.
I'm Rod Kunze. My family owns the farm in question, and the veterinary clinic and the pet products building and the boarding kennel, all in that same corner. I'm 56 years old. I have lived in the town and my family's farm land in the town for 54 of those 56 years. Says I could continue farming or renting the remaining land for farming. I'm 56 and I only can shear so many sheep, but in the future. But I don't necessarily have to develop this land, I should say my father doesn't have to develop it because he still owns the agricultural part of it. I have purchased the veterinary buildings and I live in the house next door and whatnot. So I guess I think at some point this land is going to be developed. The question is, when is it going to be developed? Is it going to be my generation where, all my kids have moved out of town? They don't really have somebody's at some point is going to develop this. And I guess my feeling when this plan came to me is I'd rather have a facility that kids come and learn sports than somebody, and nothing personal against anybody's profession or anything here, but fixing cars and having stuff sit outside. I could rent the vacant building right now that was the pet supply place all day long to get fixed, or motorcycles to get fixed, and there's no drains in there, and I know what the floor is going to look like, and I've chose to leave it open for 6 months because I want to find the right fit. We could grow crops on it longer, and it's really no skin off my nose or off my family's nose if that's what happens. I just thought it was a good use plan long term for this particular lot, as opposed to some of the other options that could go in there. And you can go up to the intersection of 164 and 59 and just look what your other options are long term. And I live right next door to all this, so I get it. I guess it's the question, is this the use you want to have in that spot? And if so, now is the opportunity to do it. And if it's not, well, then it's not. So, and my family still owns this property, and Tom's deal is obviously dependent on the zoning change. So either it's going to happen or it's not. And it's not like it's going to make or break us one way or the other. So, and if anybody has any questions and wants to pose them to the board and I might be able to answer them, that's fine with me too. So
I do have one question.
Okay.
Can we get your name, your address for the clerk?
I'm Rod Quincy, and my address is South 52 West 24084 Glendale Road. And it's the farmhouse next to the veterinary hospital. My commute to work is walking across that 25-foot road. So, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, I know what you're saying, but yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can maybe just take a real quick minute, the part of the previous discussion, and I think Planner Rabarchek alluded to the land use plan. We just take a real quick minute. We do have, the town of Waukesha does have a land use plan that has not been revised for a number of years, but that has been set up previously. I think he alluded to the fact Waukesha County also has a land use plan. For the most part, our land use plan and theirs, I think, are reasonably consistent, although there are some discrepancies in that to be distinguished from a zoning map. The land use plan is basically the vision, or it's been the vision of the town for what the future land use might be. And just take a real quick minute, I'll go up there and you can all look at this later in the colored part of it, but
got the pin here up to the east Highway 164 corridor. We get the south part of the township, we get left the town of Vernon, and this crossing part here is Glendale Road. So above my pen, generally rectangular shape here, I think, is the entire parcel of property that's under discussion where this is close to in configuration. Look on the east side of 164 here, where a number of people live. The yellow and the orange colors here are residential zonings of different densities. Most of the green is either conservancy or open space type of thing. And you'll see on the southwest corner here of Glendale and 164, kind of color, blue color is where the church is. And that's a governmental institution. Zoning is right there. There's kind of an L-shaped configuration going to designated commercial office. You can look, if you go on up, the pen again is Lonsdale Road. Some of that again, the church, some of the other things that are designated for commercial. That's the town's version of the land use map, different than zoning per se, but you might want to yourself. Take a look at that. That's
Thank you.
Hi, Patrick Holba again. I have a redirect. I'm kind of embarrassed right now. I've known Quincy's pretty much my whole life. And I've sat here and I've listened to, I had my own concerns about the road, about lights. I didn't know it was an indoor facility. But it's their land. And everyone's like, how can I get my piece out of this? What kind of tax income am I getting from? I don't like the way it's going to look. Plant a tree. I mean, I think we're really overstepping personal liberties to some extent here. Everyone has all these concerns about how it's going to affect me when it's, if they're not making noise and they're not visual. It seems like we've gotten a little ridiculous in some of the comments here, and I guess I'm embarrassed as part of that as a town member. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments? Going once? Going twice? Then we can close the public hearing and move on to 8. Approval of the minutes from April 14th and April 28th. Is there a motion?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, at this point, the town board members stepped down. Is that correct? It's a
Yes,
joint
you're right.
of the public hearing was joined. I'm not trying to kick them out, but we do have a certain procedure that we follow.
Back to number 8, approval of the minutes from April 14th and April 28th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second? And microphones, if you would, so that we can record that. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Maybe one from Ms. Ramirez if she was not part of the commission on those 2 dates. On to 9, discussion and possible action. A, authorize more than one principal building on a lot per section 13-2-5 sub A sub 2 of the Town of Waukesha zoning code. Purpose is a multi-sport training center. Responsible parties Thomas Kelnick. Location is South 52 West 24082 Glendale Road. Planner Ray Barczyk. We're on 9A, authorize more than one principal building on a lot per section 13-2-5 sub A sub 2.
Apologize for that. So as we've kind of heard through the public hearing process, before you tonight is Mr. Kelnick for the proposal of his indoor sports facility. As he had mentioned, it's got the 4 indoor baseball fields, the 12 batting cages, roughly 6 offices, a viewing area, and then bathrooms, mechanical, and storage areas. He's proposing 84 parking stalls as part of the facility. It would be located on a 3-acre condominium lot, and it would be accessible by the private drive from Glendale Road. There's a series of motions before you tonight. The first being that very similar to when the pet warehouse was built, the Kunze family came before the town and they requested approval for more than one building being located on a lot. And that's what Mr. Kelnick is asking for tonight, because ultimately what we're doing is the lot is going to stay a 28-acre lot. They're doing a condo plat that will identify each building as a unit on that 28 acres. So the lot still acts as one. So per our subdivision or per our zoning ordinance, which is section 13-2-5A2, anytime you have more than one principal building on a lot, it needs plan commission approval. So that's the first part of the plan commission's decision tonight, is to make a recommendation to the board if they are in favor of the third building being built on the property. Staff has looked at it. And again, we currently have the veterinary clinic that's on the property. We have the pet warehouse that's on the property. And then we'll have the indoor sports facility. They all have the access off of the private drive. So staff is comfortable with what's being proposed, but ultimately it's the decision of the Plan Commission.
Questions for Planner Rybarczyk? Supervisor Fisher?
Yeah, I've got a question. Maybe you can explain to us, or Attorney Macy can, just so I understand it. We're taking this before any consideration of the rezoning, and I'm assuming there's a purpose for doing it in that order, please.
I don't know that there was any specific, I didn't put the order together. So they're all, conditioned upon each other. So you can't proceed with one without getting all of the approvals.
Maybe my logic was first getting the Plan Commission comfortable with the third building. If they're comfortable with the third building, then the next discussion is how all these buildings are working on the site, which would then take you to the condominium plat and the declaration of restrictions. If we're comfortable with the condominium plat, once that's been approved, then we can rezone Unit 3, which is part of the condominium plat. And then the last part would be the site plan of operation of, I guess maybe it was more my logic thinking, whether there was logic to it or not.
Fair enough, thank you. Mr. Stigler?
Does one approval and we move on to the next one and the next one does not fly, does that negate the first one then? Or how does this all gonna tie together?
Tonight's agenda A through D, they're all basically interwoven. I don't think that one can happen without the other.
The answer is yes. If you don't rezone the property, the mere fact that you have approved the third building, you wouldn't get the building permit or a zoning permit for the third building because it wouldn't meet zoning unless it's rezoned.
I guess that my question is if we rezone it and approve the rezoning, but we don't really approve the condominium aspect, does that, what's going to happen then? Does it can still be rezoned? And then we come back and decide if we want to turn this into a private road or we want to keep it a public road? That discussion come up?
Well, since they're all interrelated, you can bring it up at any time. But the answer to your specific question of whether or not it can be rezoned, regardless, is the answer is yes. The property owners, it's my understanding, in all likelihood would pull. If this project isn't proceeding and the sale isn't proceeding, they can withdraw the rezoning request at any time. So I have reason to believe they're not going to rezone. They didn't want to rezone the property unless this project can go ahead, so they can withdraw the rezoning request. But if you have questions on the condominium plat or, the site plan and plan of operations, since they're all tied together, I don't think the chairman would have an objection.
Do you want to skip over one and head to another? Is that the question?
Well, my problem, not problem, but I guess I don't really have a problem changing it to B2. I mean, it's like Rod said, it's something that he's thought through and he is the owner and people have rights to do with their property as they wish, specifically since we've talked about this in the past, that this is going to be commercial corridor along 164. My issue is that if it's going to be stopped there and not do the whole property, it's going to be done at some point in the future, not necessarily this generation, but who knows what the next generation may do with this property. I would like to see this as a public road, not a private, and for future development, have it come back around the wetland and that access, there's a right of way, I believe, off of 164 north of the wetland, correct, Rod?
Yes, sir.
And I think that for future development and to make this a neater, cleaner deal, to have multiple owners on here. I mean, if it was just one family owning all this and there's a condo, yeah, but now we've got another owner coming in here and who knows, 10 years down the road, Mr. Kelnick decides, I don't want to own this property any longer and sells it to somebody else. Now we're just complicating the whole issue. I think if we're going to do it, let's do it right the first time and make it one road that's a public road with the town takes it over and make it done the first time.
Planner Rybarczyk, could you address that?
We had a series of staff meetings that looked at the full 28-acre parcel, looked at what Mr. Kelnick was wanting to do, and looked at what the Kunze family's short-term intent of the property was. Originally, we were thinking that the public road dedication was the way to go. When Mr. Kelnick's engineers laid it out, we quickly found out that the existing uses that are there, so the farmhouse, the vet clinic, and the vet warehouse, those would all become non-conforming structures because of the new right-of-way that would be required for the dedication of that road. So in discussing with the town attorney, I think we all agreed, even with the town engineer, that we felt making all of those uses non-conforming was not in the best interest of the town or the current property owners. We also looked at potentially getting an access in off of 164. I believe at the time that 164 was upgraded and that median cut was put in, the wetlands was probably not as large as it is now. So it's unknown at this point, even if an access point where that median cut is at can actually happen because of the size of the wetland now that's there today. It pretty much exceeds or goes further north than where the median cut is on 164 right now. We also felt that bringing in the road from 164 north of the wetlands to the area where Mr. Kelnick is looking to put the indoor sports facility chewed up a lot of the agricultural area that the Kunzis would like to continue to farm at this point. So taking all those matters into consideration, the conclusion that we came to was to still have the access off of Glendale Road, extend the private drive and do it as a condominium plat so that we were not making any of those along the private drive non-conforming. So that's kind of where we're at today. I don't know if Engineer Janelli or Attorney Macy, if I misstated anything or if I left anything out.
You didn't misstate anything. You missed that section 2.3 sub 2 of your ordinances says that any land division, which if you made it a public road would have to be at least a 3-lot land division, has to meet zoning, and you can't meet zoning because they built the vet clinic too close to the road. They had always contemplated, and we were told by the Kunze family that they had contemplated putting a public road in there. The problem is the buildings, the existing barn and things we understand, that was existing. But now when you go, and the best way for me to explain it, and I'll make it very simple. If you own 5 acres and you're in 3-acre zoning, you can't split it into 2 3-acre lots, right? Doesn't meet zoning. It might meet the land division ordinance, it may be the right size for land division ordinance, but you don't meet zoning, and when you divide land, you have to also meet all these other things, including zoning. So we all know you can't take 5 acres and divide it into 2 3s in zoning because you wouldn't meet the zoning. If you're on 5 acres, if you're on 6 acres and you want to divide it in half, and the building's in the middle of the property, you can't divide it with a lot line down the middle of the building, right? That's common sense. You can't create 2 3-acre lots with a house down the middle of the building. You have to tear the building down. That's what they proposed to the staff, and what we couldn't get around is that if you put a 66-foot right-of-way there, you're making the buildings illegal. We tried it, and then when they came back with the details, so the staff was charged with working with the property owner. You will make the policy decision to see if there's a way to legally do it. They could request a variance, but it's a self-imposed hardship. They're creating the problem. They could tear down the vet clinic, which I don't think is reasonable, and shift the road over away from the barn and keep the house in the barn. But the problem is they didn't leave a wide enough strip to get the 66-foot road through there. That's also why we're not proposing a private road, because a private road meets the same problems, and you have to meet many of the same setbacks and offsets. So the problem is the lay of the building. We agree with you as a staff, it would be nice to put a public road there, but it will make everything illegal. They've even agreed, we don't care if you make all of our buildings illegal, but the code doesn't allow it. And that's our problem. One of the decisions you're going to be making later on tonight is to what condition are you wanting to bring this road up? Are you bringing it up to driveway standards, private road standards, or public road standards? They have proposed from day one, they don't necessarily want to spend the money, but they proposed, and he's already represented what he's talking about, what kind of access he's going to bring in there, even if it's a condominium complex. So the condominium complex was the fallback to figure out a way to do it without having to tear down buildings. We're just, if anybody has another solution, we'd be more than happy to look at it, but your staff has struggled with it, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, I understand the setback requirements and stuff, and I get why you're saying this. But Rod, can I ask you this question? When you built the clinic, did you have to move it to a certain spot because of the 164 corridor being built and added onto, or was this? So in other words, they told you where you could build a building.
Come on up to the microphone if you would, Mr. Quincy.
So when I was a kid, Highway F was Chinook Pass and it started on Glendale Road. Okay. There was no Highway F connection. You had to use Big Bend Road to get to Big Bend. That's why they called it that. I have the plans here from 1966 to put in the road, and the county took the road from the farm. And then sometime in the 80s, prior to us building the clinic, the plan was it to be a state highway, and we were required by setback in the corner from that intersection to be so far back. So the reason that the clinic is where it is was because we had to comply with the state highway. And each time these things happened, from county road to state highway, and then again to 4-lane highway, they took more easement. Started out at 80, and I think it went to 120, and then they took another 80 off coming towards us, and even more at the intersection. And actually our compensation was that cut in the medium, supposedly to allow us access to develop at some point, which you're telling me I can't use now, I believe. That's how they justified taking the property. And on the other side of the property on the west, there's a gas line that they took eminent domain. So that basically everybody keeps stripping stuff out of the farm, and the buildings are where the buildings are because we're getting pinched. It would be my preference, probably in a perfect world, to have a public road there. And I get that some places have legal non-conforming things, and I can even give you some examples in the town, but I get how you want things to be up to ordinance. I don't know what the exact letter of the law and to solve the problem, but the reason the clinic's where it is, I can show you on these plans. I got stuff from 1966, from 1986, from 1990, and then from the 2000s where the 2-laners are. So I don't know if that helps.
It does.
Yeah.
I guess we talked, you mentioned hardship and self-inflicted, and I really don't believe that qualifies as self-inflicted. I think the state kind of put their building where it is, and we have legal non-conforming in this township, and I think this one would qualify and it's not going to change anything. The buildings are going to be there, whether it's a private road, public road, or whatever. But for long-term and down the road here for development, I really believe this ought to be a town road. And someday continued around the wetland or wherever it may be, then if that right-of-way is still there, that they were promised by the state to do that. So I think there's a way to do this. I'm not a lawyer. No offense, John. But, I think there's a way in this circumstances. I mean, I was on the Board of Appeals for 15 years, and we have hardship cases and things that we've dealt with. And I'm, to be honest with you, I believe this is one of them.
What if the drive was built to town road standards, and at some point in the future we found a way to either amend the ordinance to allow for a non-conforming structure to be allowed in a land division? Would that Would that help?
The road would have to, and I'm not sure, I heard this at one time too, that road was built to town specs at that time, correct? So, yeah, and so the road has already got a base there and everything for road. Oh, definitely, it would definitely have to be to town specs. There's no getting around that. I mean, I think it should be done no matter if it's private or whatever, but I think
Agreed.
it has to be done. I believe the fire chief has kind of agreed to that correctly. I mean, isn't that what the town would, the chief would want?
Sure.
Chapter 18 of the state fire code, NFPA 1, which is state code for us. We have the ability to require that to be built, whether it's a private road or a private drive or a public road. We have the ability to require that to be built to town road standards. Because of what that facility or that roadway is going to service, there are 5 facilities that road picks up. There's the vet clinic, the pet food store, the grooming barn, private residence, and then it would be the new building. So there's 5 facilities that would pick up. With our calculations, we use a formula of 1.5 times the number of parking stalls that are available on the site as a minimum road volume, and we use a more complicated calculation for a maximum number. We estimated that there'd be potentially, and this would be probably at peak times if all places were fully occupied, there could be between 150 and 300 cars there per day in and out of that facility. Therefore, we are requiring, the fire department is going to require, as the authority having jurisdiction, that the road is put into town standards. They would not be able to get an occupancy permit without that happening. That is supported by state code. I did talk to my state coordinator, and she agreed 100% that would have to happen. There's just too much volume not to have that happen. I gave Tom a copy of this, and I think, Kathy, did they all get a copy of this report? It specifies the dimensions of the road, the turn radiuses and such. Because we have seen a plan that there could be future development at some time, and that road could be connected to Highway 164, we would waive the requirement of a temporary cul-de-sac being built on the end with the intention that we would use the new facilities, the sports complex parking lot, as the cul-de-sac, so that you would have a circle drive to get back out again. And since that's the last property on the cul-de-sac, it's mostly their own customers using it anyway. So I don't see folks from the pet hospital driving back there to turn around and such. So we felt that as long as it's built to town standards, which it will have to be, we could use the parking lot as the end cul-de-sac. That would be temporary, with the intent that at some point that road is going to be continued on, and there is going to be access to Highway 164.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, following on that, I have a question or two. If you look at sheet 4 of 5 that we have in the pack, the site plan that was prepared by JRM, leaving aside just for the moment the issue about whether that road is public or private, and I good conversation about that. But my concern is just the drawing represents that to be a 66-foot roadway easement, which is a typical right-of-way width for a town road. But then the drawing shows the driveway, the road, whatever you want to call it, drifted all the way over to the west side of that, and in fact even shows the infiltration basin into that 66-foot roadway easement. Maybe somebody can explain to me. I don't quite know what in this context a 66-foot roadway easement is with this condominium development, but why wouldn't that portion of it be built to town, if it's going to be built to town standards, as it appears as though it must be public or private, why wouldn't that be drifted down the center of that 66-foot roadway easement? And why wouldn't the site development be such that the infiltration basin wouldn't encroach on that, so that could potentially be extended or used into development of the part of the property farther to the north? Maybe somebody explain that. I don't understand what the purpose of that is.
Mr. Kelnick?
Well, I don't have the drawing in front of me, but I can tell you.
Mike, could you step up to the microphone, please? The easement that was put in there, I think after, if you went back to your first packet and you saw the report that Jason Fruth put together, was his recommendation for if that road's going to be widened at any point, or after a delineation is done currently, that there has to be some area left there for rain gardens or treating the water runoff off of that road at some point when it continues through the entire development once it's developed.
Tom, also correct me if I'm wrong, but as we look at this drawing, your agreement with Mr. Kunze to purchase the 3 acres only goes to the center line of that 66 feet. So 33 feet is part of the property that you're buying, which has the private drive. The other 33 feet of the easement is actually on property owned by the Kunzes.
No.
So the full 66 feet
Is the dotted line on there. If you look at the dotted line, that's I don't necessarily at this point want to call it a lot, but it's what should we call it? A line?
Unit.
A unit? That both 33s are within the dotted line.
But you don't own the dotted line.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know, but
You will.
I hope.
I mean, Jason Fruth isn't here tonight to speak for himself. It just seems to me as though it would make more sense if that's got to be built to town road standards. And at some point in time, if that might be, I don't know if the right word is converted, but from private to a public road and serve the rest of the development or what or not, it just seems to me like it would make more sense if that went down the middle of that thing that's called the 66-foot roadway easement.
Planner Barczyk, did you have an opportunity to speak with or see any communication from Mr. Fruth at the county regarding infiltration and where things should be on the property?
The infiltration would have come from Alan Barros, not Jason Fruth. So I will turn the mic over to Chris with that regard.
I think everybody has, Alan and Tom and people at the county have done soil pits on site, a bunch of soil pits to evaluate soils, and I think they're still doing that actually. So infiltration at this point, from what I understand, is what they're leaning towards, but might not actually be possible given groundwater elevations and some other things. So I think there's probably still some things that might actually be in the works. If you look at sheet 2 of that plan set, there's an 83-foot dimension that comes off the corner. And I know the county has kind of said that's what they want to see is a minimum of 80 from that corner, so that we're staying away from that area of, I'll call it wetlands. So I think that might be part of the reason why the road is shifted to the west.
I guess I'll just make one comment. We're not going to resolve this tonight. I mean, certainly not unsympathetic to what, if it's Alan Barrows or Jason Fruth or whatever it is, what their expectations might be for stormwater infiltration, water quality issues, all that type of thing. But again, the drawing on that actually shows the infiltration basin, and it may just be concept, but actually going into that 33-foot right of way. I mean, I don't see based on this drawing how that roadway could ever be extended to the north of the infiltration. It's pinched the infiltration basin and the rest of it. I mean, we're not going to resolve that tonight, but it sure seems to me make a whole lot more sense to have the roadway down the center of the right of way.
Are you done, Brian?
Yes, sir.
So are we hamstringing Mr. Kunze in the future, basically? And if so, then is he aware of that?
Well, we're not hamstringing him. He's hamstringing himself by selling this exact 3-acre parcel. And we have made that known at the staff level all along, that we would have preferred that the potentiality of the extension of the driveway, be it public, private, or a driveway, shouldn't be on Mr. Kelnick's property. The Kunzes should control that potentiality. And I mean, from my perspective, from looking at it legally, if you just look at, if you even have this one sometimes is the easiest one to see it. They would have to shift the road out of Mr. Kelnick's property and then run a parallel road next to his driveway, which is not atypical. Don't get me wrong. That's not a legal problem as long as they stay far enough away from the wetlands, but they can shift that off of the box, shift it to the right, go over that, and that driveway could actually be taken out and then, put in a new driveway. We do that all the time. The reason he's extending his driveway is because, and it's not necessary to extend the private drive all the way up to the wetlands, just for conversation purposes. The staff didn't feel that was necessary. You may feel it's necessary for the planning purposes, especially, Supervisor Fisher's comments. If they had built it all the way up to the wetlands, then he wouldn't need that drive to get to his parking lot. He would just use the common outlot drive, correct? Okay. So they have proposed, and that's what you're considering tonight. They want to have the drive be the box that you see, and then his 3-acre parcel, and he does his own private driveway at the end of the driveway for the condominium complex. They're not, and I will defer to Chris and the planner and the engineer, they're not circumvented from shifting off of the Kelnick 3-acre and building the 66-foot strip between the wetland and the Kelnick parcel, if they can get permission from the county to do it, correct? There's 87, I can't read it here, 83 feet between his property line and the wetlands. They theoretically could put a private drive in there, or a private road, or a public road. It would be a shift. It wouldn't be a straight.
Can I just ask one follow-up question? And I don't know whether this makes it clear or less, but in this context, on the drawing as we're looking at it, and again, the issues about who really has this ownership, what is the meaning of the 66-foot wide roadway easement? Forget for a minute even where the placement of the pavement is. Who is granting an easement to whom for what purpose in this scenario?
Condominium language. That's a limited common area or a common area. Okay? You have units in a condominium, which is generally your condominium unit, what you live in. And then you have common areas, which are oftentimes the drives, and then you have limited common areas. Okay? That's the vernacular of when Mr. Kelnick says, what do you call it? And I believe the planner stated it's a unit. In this case, they want a 3-acre unit. He's going to own that unit, have total control. No CAM charges, no cross unless they enter into something. But they will have joint responsibility for the driveway, the box. That's a limited common area or a common area that have responsibility pursuant to their condominium documents. Now, and they have to decide whether the boarding isn't part, the boarding parcel is a separate parcel. They actually have an easement. because they don't have, their legal access is off of Glendale Road. Their legal access, they can put a driveway off of Glendale Road. They have an easement on the vet property or the remainderment of the Quincy property to get to the boardings. I mean, everybody's got to know that. The legal access for the boarding stable or boarding operation, the kennel, is off of the main drive. They just have an easement to use the vet property, for lack of words, the vet property. So they're proposing a 4-unit condominium, which doesn't include the boarding. So the condominium unit is also granting an easement to the boarding operation over that common land, and theoretically might be asking them to pay for a portion of it as part of that easement. Not a simple way to do it, but it was the only legal way to do it that we could think of. Going back to the point at hand though, if they were to dedicate it, I don't know if this would be the site plan you would approve. I don't know. That's up to you.
I guess for the moment, final comment, let other people engage in this. This gets pretty involved. I mean, just the big picture part of it. I am not opposed to the rezoning of the property. I think this, there are some site development issues, but I think it's good and appropriate use for the property. But a little bit earlier, I think Mr. Hom reminded me that I once said when I was in the back of the room, be careful what you wish for. I mean, it sure seems to me as though those are appropriate words for tonight, for a minute to really understand what the consequences are for all the parties involved in this. I mean, they can make some important decisions, what that means downstream. It's not an easy or simple thing. It's my observation.
Absolutely.
Rod, are you aware of all these different ramifications?
I'm learning a few things tonight. I will say that our council is, well, he is counsel for another municipality in the county, and he has looked at the plans, and there will be language in the agreement that there is access through the parcel that road can be extended, both for access for the agricultural land and for possible future development. And there's a written agreement, or going to be a written agreement, on how the snow removal and maintenance of that road would be handled before any closing would be done. Certainly not in favor of anything that leaves a spite strip in the middle of my land here. Is, you know, I get that. The plan originally had some plantings at the end of that driveway and no paving to the end of it and whatnot. So those things have to be addressed. I'm still trying to get my head around some of the things that are mentioned today. I certainly do see sometime in the future, whether it's 5 years or 50 years, that road would come in off of 164 north of the wetland and come around and come out on Glendale Road past the sports facility and past the veterinary hospital and onto the Glendale Road. That's what I would foresee happening. In a perfect world, it would be nice if it was legal non-conforming, but I guess that's not going to happen. But did that answer what I was supposed to say?
That's a great answer,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's what he has to do. Because
Yeah.
even if that box, if the buildings weren't there and the box was dedicated as a public road, 66 feet to the end of the property, Mr. Kelnick's property still has to abut a road, and they'd have to build a cul-de-sac. So you would have this problem. I have this problem all the time where somebody wants to put a lot at the end of a public road, and they have to have 33 feet of frontage and a 3-acre parcel. They have to reserve the right, as Mr. Kunze has indicated, to get that 33 feet back to build the road at such time. So that's the perfect answer, and that's, we're glad to hear from a legal and from a planning and engineering standpoint. We're glad that the property owner is sophisticated enough to realize that he has to reserve the right on Mr. Kelnick's 3 acres to dedicate that or get that for a private or public road at some time in the future. That's very good planning. That's what we warn people all the time. But I just want to tell everybody, even if we figured a way to dedicate it and put a 3-acre parcel at the end, you still would have that same problem. Because he has to own frontage, and you'd also be having to build a cul-de-sac. The chief is not going to waive a cul-de-sac, or I'm not going to let him legally waive a cul-de-sac if it's a public road, because we make everybody else put a minimum, a temporary cul-de-sac there. And there were site problems with side yard and setback and everything else if it's a public road that were not taken into consideration if it's a condominium unit. So, I mean, and Mr. Kelnick knew that. He had a side yard and a setback and a rear yard if those were lots, a 3-acre lot versus a 3-acre condominium parcel. A 3-acre condominium parcel, Mr. Planner, he doesn't have the same restrictions. Correct. So we were trying to work with the property owner, and make sure all the codes were being followed, just so everybody knows that. I mean, that's what was the driving force. We don't like it, the condominium complex necessarily. But I have to tell you, we do have some communities who would say, if they want to do this as a condominium complex, like any big, and I apologize, but I'm willing, are there public roads down on Sunset where they put in all of those businesses? Are those public roads, or are those just driveways for all of those buildings in that complex where the fast food restaurants and what is all down there? I assume that those are all private.
Public roads.
I can't imagine the city plows those.
Is that Berkshire?
No. Oh, no. Yes, you're correct on that.
So
That's in the city.
this is why this isn't, in some respects, this isn't any different than what you see in a commercial complex. You see a commercial complex on driveways, and the renters, or there's no reason they can't have condominium units in those complexes. I'm willing to bet Century owns, now the old one, Fox Run, is that Fox Run? Those might be some public roads in there. I don't know.
I think those are not.
Okay, well then all those restaurants are privately owned and they're all on driveways as condominium units of some sort.
Chief,
so I mean, I just want to say the condominium complex may be foreign. It's not atypical of a commercial development.
Chief, you had something to add?
Part of our request in paragraph 3 of what we said there is that road specification extends all the way from Glendale Road to the northernmost property line of Mr. Kalnick's purchase. So that drawing is inaccurate from what we're going to have to require.
So there'll have to be an additional stub to the north.
The northeast corner of the parcel. Just ask the question, just to understand one more time, but for Alan Barrows, who's not here tonight, and his concerns about the wetland part of it, but for that, the roadway would be centered in this 66-foot easement and could be extended to the north property line. Is that a fair statement or not? Is that the issue?
My question is, what would be the purpose to extend that to the property?
Well, that's where at least your northernmost driveway.
For what though?
For it being a code. It's already have a jurisdiction right now requirement. That's what we talked about the other day.
I know, but for, I don't have that code in front of me, but for practicality standpoint, you're looking for people to park there, really. In this situation, as a condo.
We're making that requirement, so we have to use access.
That's stub isn't giving you access to it. Great.
Clarify that doesn't have to be anywhere. It has to go to your northern driveway, so you need
Northern driveway.
So does, Chief, then does what's currently proposed meet your requirement?
Like Mr. Fisher said, it should be centered in there, it should be brought, it should be built to town standards.
Making the assumption that it's built to town standards, the question I have is, does it meet your criterion that it goes to the northern portion of his driveway? Okay.
I guess when I wrote this, I was thinking the driveway was that.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? Maybe Chris knows this one off the top of his head, but again, I'm looking at sheet 4 of 5. If I read that, correct me, am I looking at 20-foot width of pavement? And our town road standard would require what width of pavement? Is it 24?
Yeah, I noticed this as well. It's a 20-foot wide shown on that drawing. His detail on the next page labels it at 24.
Okay.
The town road standard is 24 feet wide of pavement.
And then shoulders?
4 inches of asphalt with 10 inches of gravel base. He's got 4 inches of asphalt with 8 inches of gravel base, so we're close. But then we also have shoulders for town road standard, which I think is 3 feet.
So that could be 30 feet edge of shoulder to edge of shoulder?
Correct.
And then you got to have some, obviously, additional
You have
distance.
to make
sloping
arrangements for
ditch profile.
drainage. But in this case, I think the east half would drain away and the west half would drain to whatever stormwater facility he's going to propose.
Okay. But if we truly required this to be built to town road standards, you're thinking that this is high enough there isn't a ditch on the west side or what? And I'm still trying to see that, I just don't think the numbers even work on this without moving that at least closer to the center of that 66-foot roadway easement. I'm not trying to be difficult or contrary. I'm trying to be helpful so that people, we don't end up in a situation later where there's all kinds of issues for everybody to try to solve. That's the whole purpose.
Tom, you're buying 3 acres.
Correct.
And that 3 acres goes to the center line of that 66.
The dotted line around the perimeter is the lot line. But I'm looking
I don't think so.
Is that the easement is within my dotted line.
Mr. Kelman, can you come up here, please?
Part of the problem, just so you know, some of the maps show the dotted line differently. If you look at page 2 of the site improvement plan, you're going to see the dotted line that he's referring to. But if you look at the other side, some of the other ones that we were looking at earlier, the dotted line is the 33-foot line on his property. Pardon? Yeah. But the bottom line is 33 feet of the proposed future private or public road is on Mr. Kelnick's property. That's what you need to know. 33 feet is on.
No, but he's claiming it's all on his property. He's claiming this is his property line.
That's not true. Right here is his property. Here's the 66-foot box, and here's his dotted property line that he keeps referring to, and here's the 33 feet.
So in your best,
Here's the box, here's the box, so it's so simple. Yeah, it's still the box. This is the property. So he's still 33 feet is on his, he has to abut the driveway 33 feet. We're losing. What we had proposed is that this box be and be this box. And that we want to know. And I'd suggest we take a 5-minute recess because we're not on the record at the moment. The public can't hear. We have all these sidebars going on that I'd recommend that if you're going to continue in this mode, we're going to have to take a recess.
Let's do that. Let's take a 5-minute recess and make it 7 minutes until 8 o'clock on the head.
Oh, yeah. Once that process is complete. I don't know how you feel.
That was gonna happen before it got so part of the union.
Yeah, I remember.
The 66.
Yes, I do. Yes. Oh, I'm done with it. I had some spare time. Now I have more than I need.
All right, do we have everybody? Yes, we've got everybody. It is 7:58. Let's go back on the record. Planner Rybarczyk, could you explain to everybody exactly what the new thought is, where you would put the road within the right of way in order to satisfy the concerns of Supervisor Fisher and to a lesser degree, Commissioner Stigler?
Yes, I believe we have an agreement by the parties that the the private drive that would be extended from what's there existing would be to town standards per the town engineer and also the fire chief. It would be centered on the 66-foot easement that's there. It would extend from the existing edge of the pavement all the way to the north line of the Unit 3. And then it would have a entrance into the future drive and parking for Unit 3. So the private drive would be extended all the way to the north line of Unit 3 to satisfy the fire chief's concerns, also Mr. Kunze's concerns for future access going further north. It would be centered so that it would be shared between both parties. And then it would still have the access into the future drive-in parking. So I believe that's where we're at.
And then one question for Mr. Kunze, if I could. Then you're going to have an agreement with Mr. Kelnick's unit that you have definitive access to both sides of that road so that future development on your property cannot be hampered or hindered before the closing. Additional questions? What's that? I think we're still on A. Yes. Yep, there would be individual motions. Yes.
Maybe the planner could walk us through each of the motions individually.
So motion A is for the authorize more than one principal building on a lot for section 13-2-5A2 of the town of Waukesha zoning code, which we have discussed. motion B.
Just one at a time.
Okay.
You have them spelled out, bottom of page 3 and top of page 4.
More than one building in the land.
Commissioner Miller, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
And wait, and we got to make sure Kathy adds in there based on comments that it's subject to the rezoning being approved. It's subject to the site plan and plan of operation of being approved, and it's subject to the condominium being approved. Because this is only plan commission action, correct? Isn't this the one I looked up?
You want that part of the motion?
Needs to be, yes.
I amend it accordingly.
And second?
Second.
Commissioner White?
Yeah, I just have a question, I guess. I mean, it's all sounds good, but it'd be nice to see it on black and white, I guess. I mean, we just drew it real quick to have this happen, and I think we're all in agreement to this. And the property owners, I guess, are in agreement to this also. I guess I didn't really hear from Mr. Kalmick if he was in agreement or talked to Mr. Cooney, he was, but I'd like to hear Mr. Kalmick what he would agree to this or not.
Yeah, we both agreed to it, and for you to see it in black and white, I guess what I would ask the commission and board to take faith in the planner. Obviously, we'll get it in black and white, obviously within reason, a couple of days, and for his approval to make sure that we've put in that easement, extended at 33 feet.
That sounds good, because also, Mr. Coons had to bring you into this too. So you were referring back to your council, that would be okay with your council now. Are you speaking for your council now? Because you said you were going to refer back to him if this would be okay to you.
Yes, please.
We have talked to my council about this, and this was something like this was going to happen before the closing. As far as our land being involved, just so there wasn't going to be a, hindrance to future development. I am okay with it, but I'm okay with it pending my council's approval, I guess, is the official plan. Yeah. Are you looking for something more specific, Councilman White?
Well, I guess from my perspective here, to want to make everybody aware of the ramification that could happen if you say no, the council says no, what?
It's not going to happen until we're okay with it.
There'll be no closing on the property.
Yeah, I still own the land, and it's not going to happen because it's a business deal, but it's not a make or break business deal on my part here. So, okay.
So if you're not satisfied, your council's not satisfied, you're simply not gonna, you'll withhold the closing.
Or postpone it or whatnot. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think we should also add town engineer and town attorney to Mr. Kalnick's statement. So if we see the drawings, I think the three of us, because we've been working closely on this, so I think, all the matters then would be handled.
Good idea. Yes.
I have a question. This may go to Attorney Macy. Is it either understood or appropriate at this point in time, the requirement or stipulation that the road be built according to town road standards, does that belong in as part of a condition of this motion, or does that come downstream? Is that under site plan of operation, or where does that belong?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. And I was thinking that probably is the site plan and plan of operation, but there's no harm in saying you cannot build this new building unless you build the access to it to public road standards. So I think that, if you want to make an amendment to the motion to add that as an additional condition, that would be appropriate.
I guess I just asked the maker of the motion, a seconder, whether that's an acceptable friendly amendment.
Absolutely.
Second.
And I hate to do this to the clerk, but I think we should have her read back the motion since we've confused the heck out of this. So or I can restate it, or you're just gonna take it off the
I
table?
was gonna take it right off the table.
Okay, well, there's a motion by the Plan Commission pursuant to the code to authorize, what you're actually authorizing is the building inspector to issue a building permit and a zoning permit for the construction of an additional building on this parcel, subject to the 3-acre parcel being rezoned, subject to the site plan and plan of operation being approved, subject to reconfiguration of the road plan to the satisfaction of the town planner, the town engineer, and the town attorney, and subject to construction of the road to town road the private driveway to town road standards. And again, I would think that would be the engineer's satisfaction. They're gonna have to do a developer's agreement and a letter of credit, like everybody else who builds at the town road standards, if they want to get their building permit before, the road is built. And the condo plat, thank you.
Is that crystal clear? All right, we've got a second, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to B, condominium plat and declaration of condominium document. Purpose is a multi-sports training center. Responsible party is Thomas Kelnick, South 52, West 24082 Glendale Road. This is a recommendation to the town board. Planner Roy Barczyk, just a quick explanation if you would.
Yeah, as I had mentioned earlier in the meeting, staff had come to the conclusion that in order to develop the indoor sports facility, we felt it was best to go the route of the condo plat based on the issues that we were running into with the dedication of the road. So the petitioner and property owner are proposing a 4-unit condo plat. Unit 1 would have the existing veterinary clinic and a portion of the farm fields on it. Unit 2 would have the existing warehouse. Unit 3 would have the indoor sports facility. And then Unit 4 would have the remaining 16 acres of cultivated farm field and wetland. Again, it'll be accessed by the private drive from Glendale Road. And then any common elements within the condominium plat would be dealt with through a declaration of condominium document, which has been submitted to the town of Waukesha attorney, and he has reviewed, made comments, and they have addressed those comments, and he has signed off on it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the Plan Commission. We'd be looking for a recommendation of approval of the declaration of condominium document.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the condominium plat and declaration of condominium document per our requirements.
And I'd ask that you would just say, subject to the same conditions that were placed on the rezoning,
Subject to the same conditions on the rezoning.
In a second.
I'm sorry, it's not the rezoning, it was the approval of the new additional building on the lot. Now, Kathy, obviously that means you take off the one and you substitute the other,
Right.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to make it very clear, the outlot is not being extended. The property owner is going to take care of that issue himself internally with his documents for the sale of the 3-acre parcel. Because there was some discussion, I just want to make sure there's no confusion. The condo plat is as the planner has outlined it, with the outlot only going to the southerly and currently to the southerly edge of the 3-acre parcel. That's not a plus or a minus. I just want to make sure the record's clear because there was a lot of discussion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to C, the rezone ordinance. Planner Ray Barczyk.
As part of the condominium plat unit 3, The petitioner is requesting a rezone from the current agricultural zoning district to B2, which allows for the private commercial recreation facility. And it'll only be the meets and bounds descriptions of Unit 3 that'll be, the rest of the land will remain agricultural or B2 where the existing veterinary clinic are at and the pet warehouse.
Thank you. Is there a motion for a recommendation to the town board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to rezone, the approval of the rezoning shall be in full force and effect, subject to the petitioner's recording of the condominium plat and declaration of condominium document with Waukesha County Register of Deeds, and the requirements of our town engineer.
And should that also be subject to the previous, subject also to the previous
Wasn't that subject
conditions?
to aren't we rezoning it? Why would that be subject to the rezoning if we're rezoning it right now, I guess? But, all right.
What he's saying is that we'll rezone it even if they don't go ahead with the rest of it, that's true, you could do that. They wouldn't even need the condominium plat then.
Yeah.
But it's our understanding that the Pratt family is not going to rezone it if the project doesn't go ahead. But you can put in, you don't need to put those conditions on if you're not a mind to.
Well, I'm just reading them right here.
Yep, that's fine. You can go with what's written.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick one to Planner Barczyk. Explain to us, in fact, correct, if the town board were to accept the recommendation of the town plan commission, if this were to pass for the rezoning, if we were to get that far, this requires the Waukesha County to concur with the rezoning as well. Is that a true statement?
The correspondence that we had from Jason Fruth, which was about a month or so ago, the county is currently going through a rezoning map process. And the email that we received is that the county would not review the rezone. They would accept the recommendation from the town. And later on this year, when they finish their rezone, they would just pick it up at that time. So the correspondence that we got is that the county would not be reviewing the rezone.
They can't proceed to build the building if the county board doesn't approve the rezone.
Tom, was that not the email that we got from Jason Fruth?
Are you sure he wasn't speaking of the shoreline portion of it?
No.
Well, he can't get a building permit till it's rezoned.
Well, I think
They take every one of our rezonings through. As soon as the clerk sends it up there, they take it through the county board.
The correspondence was submitted to the full staff, so Attorney Macy, you should have received it. It was from Jason Fruth stating that.
I'm just telling you that's fine. He can't get a building permit till it's rezoned, and the county board has to approve the rezoning. So he'll be delayed if the county doesn't walk this through. It's just the law. You can't build this building in the ag zone.
my understanding was that if the town board approved it, he would have to have knowledge of the approval, and at the county level, it would be done at staff. It wouldn't necessarily be done in front of a full board. Again, the email was provided by him.
Planner Barczyk, does this go back to the county's current rezoning of the entire county where they're remapping some things within the entire county?
That is correct.
Okay. And are some of those handled at staff level then and not at a board level?
Possibly the processes that the county has been following under the new administration have been different than the past. So they may be looking at this differently.
Thank you. Nonetheless, I don't know that that's necessarily our concern at this moment. That's something that the petitioner and the county are going to have to work through, and not necessarily our concern at this point. Okay.
John?
Question, Commissioner Miller?
Is this the, we're on C, right? Correct?
Yes. Yes.
Is this the last chance that we get then, if this is approved, to discuss the facades?
Well, that's the site plan and plan of operation.
So that will be the one.
Yes.
correct?
Thank you.
Mr. Planner, the site plan of operations where they have to approve whether the building meets the architecture.
Correct.
And landscaping requirements.
Anything further? No, we're still on C. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to D, site plan of operation, planner Rybarczyk.
The site plan you have before you, and we've went over those requirements. For the plan of operation, what was submitted is that, of course, it's the indoor sports training facility. Hours of operation are Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Number of employees are four full-time employees or part-time equivalent. Estimated number of occupants in a given day are 100 patrons. And then they're going to be utilizing private septic and well. In reviewing the architectural details and renderings that were provided to us, we do have the section 13-2-4E, the detailed architectural standards. It does say that for commercial buildings, so for retail, business, service, multifamily, and office uses, all building exteriors shall be brick, decorative masonry, glass panel, EIFS for only 50% of the exterior building face, or other appropriate finished facade as may be approved by the Plan Commission or Board. What's being proposed is a EIFS metal panel that's being used for the building. So the Plan Commission will need to decide if that meets the intent of the ordinance as far as an appropriate exterior building face. With regard to the landscaping plan, the original submittal that was provided to us had some deficiencies with regard to landscaping within the parking area. They have since provided us with a new landscaping plan that addresses all those deficiencies, which is in your packet. So they meet the building foundation requirements and they meet the requirements for the parking lot. And then with regard to the off-street parking, our code doesn't have parking requirements specific for recreational facilities like this. We had that discussion also with the next level. Basically, he's providing the 84 parking stalls, which comes down to 1.2 parking stalls per patron. The rationale from the petitioner for the 84 parking stalls is one is that he's only estimating 100 patrons per day using the facility, but not at the same time. Each patron will use the facility for roughly 90 minutes at a time, and then approximately 90% of the patrons are picked up and dropped off at the indoor sports facility because they're not of legal age to drive. So it's with the youth, regarding the youth. So the Plan Commission will have to make a determination tonight and a recommendation to the board whether they feel that the 84 parking stalls is sufficient for the facility and meets the intent of the ordinance. So with that, I'll turn it over to Engineer Ginelli with his comments.
Thanks, Jamie. Some of my comments are mostly condo plat related, so we'll make sure that these get into our review of the condo. But we reviewed the I don't know if actually, Kathy, is my letter in with everybody? Has everybody received the letter? Okay, great. I was on vacation last week, so I submitted my report late, so I apologize. So we reviewed the information that was received in our office on May 5th. A lot of these comments are technical in nature, but I kind of want to read and bring to the attention number 8. We recommend that the plat show the access to Unit 1 from State Highway 164 and Glendale Road be restricted. I think there's actually on the right-of-way plat from the state, there's actually restrictions on that already. So that should be something your engineer should put on there or your surveyor. Yes. Then number 10, copies of the approved county erosion and stormwater permit as well as compliance certification must be provided to the town when you get them, of course. Number 11, existing private drive. This is kind of what we talked about already. The existing private drive is being extended to serve the Sticks development. The site plan dimensions the pavement width at 20 feet. However, the asphalt pavement detail shows a 24-foot wide pavement section. We recommend that the site plan be updated to the 24-foot width. In addition, we were considered to protect the pavement edge and prolong the life of the private drive. On the plat and site plans, and all references to road or roadway should be changed to private drive. And then lastly, the cross section that we kind of talked about, that the road should be built to a town road standard. So that is the end of my report.
Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Miller, I think you had indicated you had some. Please.
Meeting prior to the last one, which I wasn't here for, I'm not sure exactly. There was 6 bullet points I think that we had talked about, and we can kind of address them one at a time. Masonry versus EFS. I think we agreed on the EFS, or did we not?
I believe we did.
Okay. We had asked for either an offset of some sort on the, so that the whole building would be looking like it was 2 buildings attached to each other. Remember that?
Yes.
The other one was a shed roof over the entrance, as opposed to, I think it's a gable now. Overhangs 16 inches and 24 inches. The red band is done, and landscaping opposed to concrete directly up against the building. So I don't know if you want to take these one at a time.
Sure.
Just see what everybody's opinion is.
Go ahead.
Does everyone understand the offset situation?
Let's go ahead and go through it.
It would be as if the front part of the building that faces east had a, it would look a little shrunken. So you have a reveal. No, it's, I don't know how to describe it. Can anybody do better? You can draw it, you can give them a visual picture. No, that's the front entrance. It would be as if this was it would make it look like not quite as big a building. And the overhangs, I don't know, it's hard to tell from that small diagram whether they're on there or not. Are they? They are? Because it doesn't say. No, on any of them for that matter.
Out of all your requests, we did the EFS.
Right.
We did the 16 and 18 inch overhang. We did the shed roof. We did the wider red band, and we did not do the bump out on the side.
Or the landscaping.
Well,
there's no landscaping on the north. It's just concrete up against the building.
Yeah, and I think that was requested by staff as well.
The concrete?
Yes.
Oh, that's if
Walkway.
that's. Let me catch up with you here. Hold on a second.
The bump out from a business perspective does, it's kind of like bowling. Would you go down half the lane and then bump out hardwood and continue down? You wouldn't do that. Whether it's baseball, soccer, airlines, and I think I commented on what we had to do. Unfortunately, because of the wetlands at the next level building, that bump out is a real nuisance to the company, just because it's not square. I mean, there's a lot of that area on that side is not functionable.
I understand that part of it. It's just, well, it's up to the group as a whole. Also, the roof that's shown on the front entrance is actually a cathedral, or it's a gable, not a shed.
Yeah, it'll be shed.
What is on the front of the building? Are we putting these
No, it's EFS.
It's all
So
EFS.
the
It's
whole-
All
100
EFS, the entire front of the building?
The whole building.
I understand the sides and stuff. I think
And
we
back.
kind of discussed that, but didn't we discuss the front was gonna be some kind of masonry?
No, well, we talked about it,
Yeah.
but
I think
after,
didn't we kind of request that? Yeah, the front entrance, the front part of the building to be more aesthetically correct with the rest of the developments, like the other buildings and stuff in there.
well, the other buildings are metal and wood and
Oh, we got masonry on the kennel building on the front. That's all stucco or whatever, right, Ron? Yeah.
the decision that we made, if you're gonna request for masonry ledge on the front, and then we're only gonna do that and no EFS. I mean, it's a huge price increase to do EFS, and I don't have to do EFS according to the town's code. I have to do 50% of the front, which again, that was the discussion we had a month ago where I looked for direction to say, which one is it? The majority at the time was EFS, not block. And that's why we went that direction.
Planner Barczyk, is the code 50% of the front elevation, or is it 50% of all elevations with regards to brick, block, EFS?
For retail, business, service, multifamily and office uses, all building exteriors shall be brick, decorative masonry, glass panel EFS for only 50% of the exterior building face or other appropriate finished facade as may be approved by the Plan Commission and Board.
So just the face of the building?
Of the
50% of the
exterior
face.
building face, correct.
And to define face, that's the front of the building? Or the entrance side? Or is it
The-
all faces?
The ordinance does not go into detail as to if it's all four sides or just the face. I believe in the past, when we looked at the reconstruction of the towing facility and it's not Industrial Drive, we determined it to be the building facades that were visible from the road.
Well, you have two roads here, so. I have a question just to throw it out. Let's assume this is agricultural land, and let's assume the farmer that owns it now wanted to build this building for farm purposes. Would we make him put on decorative panels, and would we make him, I guess, it seems to me, just because the use has changed, we're starting to, I don't think any of us are decorators. So
Well, yes.
I think a bump out isn't a bad idea, but I mean, I don't know. I get, right now, if a farmer wanted to build this building to be used for agricultural purposes, would we make him do this? That's the question I asked the commissioner.
No, but the use has changed and our code allows for and requires a more decorative building when it's not an ag building.
Well, that's my point, but it's still building on the property, I guess.
But we're tasked with complying with the code, so that's what we have.
The same provisions for industrial and warehouse use buildings says that for industrial and warehouse use, all building exteriors facing a street or approved way shall have 50% of the street facade constructed in those materials. So the second provision where building facades for retail, business, service, and multifamily for industrial and warehouse uses, it says the face of the building facing the street.
Chairman. I know when I spoke last time, I guess I was one that was recommending that we would put some kind of masonry on the front of that building. And I think I'm still in agreement to that. I think this might or may not set a precedence later on in our town. And I'm still recommending that we would put a masonry, partial mason on there.
And where would you suggest that? Is that on the entrance to the building?
I
or
would say
you
on the
s-
entrance way. yes,
On the
correct.
entrance, not on the face facing 164.
Well, the same, yeah. East side,
Side.
east side.
Okay, fair enough.
Just to make it clear that if you request, if I have to put 50% block, the building is going back to a metal building. Okay, right now it's completely ephes. It's gonna be the nicest looking building there is in the town. So if we're gonna, from top to bottom, front to back, it's decorative, it gives definition. But the cost far exceeds the masonry from a budgetary perspective. And to stay within the town's ordinances, it doesn't pay for us to do both financially.
Even if you just put like a 3-foot runner up.
Keep in mind,
Because
Mr. Kelly.
30%, 3 foot is not 50% either.
Keep in mind, Mr.
I'm just
Kelly,
saying, we have them.
the plan commission and town board, those are minimum requirements. We can ask for more. We could require it to
And
be all
that's fine.
EFS. With a band of some decorative block or brick or something like that. So while the ordinance states 50% of the face, we could require 4-sided brick and block. So that's not going to be, I don't think that's the wish of the plan commission, but I don't think you have the ability to dictate to the plan commission what is going to be built out of.
And I want them to understand that from a drawing perspective, if we're going to add one thing, we're going to have to take from another. So what I've already shown to the public and to you is it's 100% of the building is going to be EFS. If you're going to require the block, we're going to have to remove the EFS.
Not
From
necessarily.
a budgetary standpoint.
Not necessarily.
Well, if it doesn't fit within the budget, we can't do it. I mean, right.
Reasonable conditions on, and he's saying if you require that, it won't fit in the budget. So you're
I understand.
I think just from Al's standpoint, I think what he's asking for is not 50% of anything. Aren't you asking that just that little front foyer be extended out and have some sort of decorative block on it?
No, actually, I would want it to go across the whole front of the east building.
I
That
see.
faces 164. And then like 3 feet up or something, I don't think it needs to be, I don't think that's a 50% calculation.
Jamie?
Looking at it from an architectural standpoint and a couple, looking at the massing of the building, it's 185 feet, I think, at this side, and we're at 37 feet. Is the 3-foot block proportionally going to aesthetically look pleasing here? I'm not saying that we shouldn't be asking for another type of material, but I'm wondering if the 3-foot, I mean, how high up is the first red band so that we actually get a proportion of
13.6, I believe.
of scale?
Looks to be 12.6 on the drawing.
12.6?
Yeah.
Maybe just a suggestion going along with that. If you look at the landscaping plan, if I'm reading that correctly, you've got Japanese yews at 5 feet
let's have one meeting.
on center across the east side. I'm not opposed to thinking the building could be made more attractive with some masonry there, but if it goes up but 3 feet and those Japanese yews are hardy at all, they'll largely conceal it. I mean, I think it might be better at the, I'm gonna call it the bump out, if you will. It might be better off to get some of that masonry that's vertical or something there as an element, because otherwise a lot of it's simply gonna be behind the landscaping. I mean, I'm all for thinking there's a way maybe to improve that, but maybe it needs to be to get some verticality to that around the offset. One other quick thing, as long as I'm as much concerned about that south side of the building. And this is kind of an interesting building as to what is the front of the building, and as much as it's not on a public street, is the front in terms of entry to it to east. I guess you could make that argument, but that is a massive exposure to the south side of it. I'm not familiar, and maybe somebody can tell me how tall at maturity a dwarf blue spruce would get. Doesn't sound to me like it would get as big as a regular blue spruce, but I mean, that is 30 feet high at the eave height there and 225 feet long. And I mean, I'm sensitive to budgetary considerations, and I know you're really tight to the condominium line there, but I mean, maybe you could even chat with Mr. Kunze or something. I mean, more to the sense of scale of that, you'd be better off to put some spruce or Scotch pine or something and have those 25 feet off the building, and something that gets 25 or 30 feet at maturity or something. I think that would soften it up a lot. The west side of it is pretty stark. So I mean, it's not only building materials, but the landscaping. I think you could do stuff that might be more in keeping with it. That said, can anybody tell me how big a dwarf blue spruce gets when it's all grown up?
Mr. Chairman, when you think about it, you really can't make a building like this an architectural decorative achievement, no matter where you put it, how you put it. And so I agree with Brian's. I think you could dress up the outside of this with some arborvitae, and in a few years, you would de-emphasize the whole thing. And it would be easier to maintain, and I don't know how the owners feel about it, but that would be much more common sense approach to it, I think.
The answer to your question is about 12 feet with a 6 to 7 foot diameter at the base. Commissioner Miller, let's start over, because I don't think we've gotten through any one of the 6 issues yet. I take that back. We've got the overhangs. We've got EFIS. Yes. You got to approach the mic if you want to address, please.
EFIS. We 100% EFIS with no masonry, or are we still at some EFIS and some masonry?
From my perspective, I'm going to agree with what Jamie had said. We've got to take into account what that's going to look like on a 30 or 40 foot tall building to have a few feet. That being said, on 185 feet at 5 feet tall, you're talking about less than 1,000 square feet. Even if you had to put in slightly extended footing, 4 inches to cover the a split face, you're sub $10,000, I would suppose, on that amount of block. I don't know that that's going to break or make your budget. I don't know what your budget is, and it's not really our concern. But it would seem not unreasonable of a request.
It
it would seem more logical to, not that I disagree with you, but I guess if I were going to argue over it, I'd rather see it where the foyer is extended to have some additional attraction rather than put masonry on it just for the sake of masonry. In other words, have either vertical, something, maybe the direction of the metal changes or something, or actually have split face block on that foyer protrusion with a shed roof that matches the red banding that's going on it. I mean, we're designing by committee here, which usually makes a horse look like a camel. I mean, so you really, you don't want to do this. It's a perfect analogy. So the ephes, I agree with the ephes. I think everybody else did. Whether the masonry, I think, is still up in the air. I would think it'd be better to have it at the foyer and skip it on the rest of the building. That's just my opinion. And then have them put some real trees in instead of dwarf ones on the, at the very least on the south side.
Jamie?
Is there a possibility of the west side of the building going to just regular metal and then upgrading the east side of the building with a combination of the block or the brick as a trade-off?
Mr. Kalnick? But please approach the mic though.
If I have my directions right, the west side of your building, which is the rear of all of these lots on the private drive.
Yeah.
If you just go to a standard metal panel on that side of the building, not the ephes, and then take that and use those funds to add the block or the brick to the east side.
So we're gonna have three different exterior wall sections? Really?
Potentially.
I mean, the whole purpose of going with ephes was to eliminate the, I guess the few of the complaints that I heard was the aluminum can effect. And ultimately that's what that ephes does. It quiets that building. You don't get any reflection. And it's visually more appealing than the regular panel or black. I mean, that's why they use it everywhere.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think if we do what you're suggesting, Jamie, you have a farm that's right behind that. And we have a letter from them opposing this whole thing altogether. Now, if you're going to cheapen up their side of the building, I don't think that's fair to them. And I don't think you're really in favor of this anyway, Tom.
Well,
That's getting complicated. You start putting
right.
one side of the building one and one the other.
I mean, that
It
again.
doesn't make sense to me, but I think what Ken's saying about maybe doing something with the front entrance a little more and decorating that up. I mean, we had some people here complaining about what the front of the building is going to look like. Maybe we can appease some of that by, maybe doing something like this instead of redoing the whole building. And I don't really want to do that either,
Right.
but
I think even a different color. I'll do a different ephes color on the front of the bump out.
Back to the camel and the horse, but the, sure. I mean, is the entire building is vertical, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so at the very least, do we agree that if you change the direction or do something different on that foyer bump out, it would enhance at the very least, the eastern section of the building? We agree. All right. So whether it has any masonry or not, I said from the beginning, I don't care about the masonry. That's just my own opinion. But we got to do something to make the front part of the building. First of all, you want wayfinding so that they know that this is the front. If they're not smart enough to find the door, at least they can look at it and say, this is the color changed or something happened to denote the fact that it's the front of the building.
And that's fine. So what you're saying is then either go horizontal or black.
I'm merely suggesting, and it's up to the rest of the commission to make the decision. And I don't want to feel like the Lone Ranger. I think we have a consensus that something has to happen here. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, fine. Just a couple quick things. First of all, I agree with Commissioner Miller here. It really isn't the best of the process here to try to be doing design by committee. I think we're trying to get a sense of that. My big picture concern for the building here from an appearance or architectural standpoint, yes, it's part about the materials, but I think it's as much or more about the massiveness of the building because it is so long, so wide, so high. I mean, I look at the landscaping plan, not here, I mean, just to criticize it, but you are making a significant investment in landscape, in plantings. I mean, it looks like a traditional solution to screen cars in the parking lot, and I'm not sure whether that's a ordinance requirement, I came to get to it, but I mean, the north side of the property here to invest the money in all that landscape planting north of the parking lot pinched at the infiltration basin to head, I mean, to try to screen cars from the north that are going to be 4.5 feet high, and we've got a building that's over 40 feet at the ridge, in 30 feet at the eave. I would sooner see some of that planting material on the south and east side of the building. I don't know, can you plant in that 50-foot gas easement or not? Do we know the answer to that? Can't plant there, but I mean, my concern, and they're saying no, my concern about this really is more about the massing and try to break in and soften up some of that than a little bit the materials. I mean, the reality of it is anybody driving by on 164, I think in a lot of respects is going to be more sensitive to the massing material even than the materials from that distance away. That's my concern. Yeah, I think we got to be sensitive to those neighbors to the west and the appearance of this from the south.
This kind of stems back to the point system that the town's ordinance has in place. I mean, it's very vague at best. It doesn't give any points for height of tree. I mean, I'll get 5 points if I put in a 4-foot maple or if I put in a 40-foot maple. It's the same point system. So, you know, again, for future, I think we've had this problem in the past before. There's nothing there for height of tree. It's what trunk of or girth of, yeah. So really, the landscape drawing is done to accommodate the points that are recommended or need to be done for this development.
You are correct, but yet again, those are at a minimum, and the Plan Commission and Town Board can require more. So in order to satisfy some of the concerns of residents that have been brought up as well as commission members, perhaps full-size larger trees rather than dwarfs should be considered.
I have no problem with it.
Okay. So we're back to masonry. Commissioner White.
I'm still in agree. I'm sorry. The building is 185 feet facing 164 east, okay? 225 feet north and south sides, whatever. And in a 41-foot tall building. We can design this all night or architect this thing all night or whatever. We all can come up with a little bit something different. It's just a big area. And if we can offset something, and I suggested masonry because I think that's what should be there. And if you guys can talk me out of it and do something different, so be. But the bump out obviously helps. A little bit of architecture, I like that. But I still don't think that's enough.
Mr. Chairman, I would submit that if you made this building out of brick, out of anything, you made it all one masonry building, it would still look like a pig with earrings. So I guess we just are beating ourselves up here trying to make something look beautiful. It's not intended. It's a functional building. It's not intended to be beautiful. I think you can change the bump out adds a lot and change some things around it. What's going to de-emphasize this building in the next 10 or 15 years, period.
I would agree.
I agree.
And I also think that as fast as we drive down 164, we're not going to be paying attention to what's on the building. But we will be looking at the trees that are blooming and growing.
Right.
And so, it's my 2 cents.
So would we be in agreement then that perhaps landscaping, specifically larger trees that are going to grow larger, perhaps subject to the planner's approval, would that satisfy that concern?
Just as thought, I think that's a step in the right direction. I mean, look at it, and again, you're sensitive to the cost of another issue, but I mean, just even looking at 3 of 5 on the landscaping plan, and I understand the desire and need to put parking spaces as close as you can to that main entrance, and a lot of those are going to be for handicap use. You've got 4 of them, I think, designated there, and appropriately so, but I mean, I think I'd even take that kind of island area on the east side of the parking lot in front of the building and slide another one of those over toward the building or that type of thing. I mean, I don't even know for sure what that plant species is, but I mean, that would soften up the front of the building. I understand that this is a tight site you're working with and that type of thing, but I think trying to soften that building with some of the landscaping all the way around would be the better way to go. I mean, even people aren't going to see it that much, but I mean, even from the north side, there are 2 tree islands on the north side of the north parking lot, 2 on the south. I mean, I'd probably move 3 of those over to that side or what or not, and skip the north side or what or not. I just think it would soften that building up a lot with the landscaping because it's massive.
Mr. Chairman, the proposal by the town is that it's a 2-tone or 2 color. You're going to use a red stripe.
Same color panel all the way around.
Okay. There's not much you can do with something like this except conceal it.
I mean, just one other suggestion. I think the horizontal stripe or a horizontal element will a little bit settle the height of the building down. It's a tall building, but I mean, maybe even you've got those, I don't just eyeballing it, but I mean, there's some windows and admittedly they're a bit higher up on the building. I don't know, we just eyeballing it. Are those things 3 feet high, 2.5 feet high, something like that, give or take?
And all those windows are trimmed out in red.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that red stripe at the window band all the way around the top or whatever, a little bit heavier band. I mean, that really wouldn't be a cost consideration. I think that might add a little bit of character to it and settle it down or that type of thing, or even introduce one more stripe at that place. I mean, if you get some horizontality into it, I think it's not going to change the height, but appearance wise, I think it might settle it down. I mean, just another thought or suggestion.
Supervisor Fisher, are you suggesting the stripe as it sits and up at the window level also? Is that your suggestion? You know, approach the microphone.
I got to have a seam in the panel, and that's why at that 12'6", I think it was, we had a natural seam there. So we were going to take a 10-inch, your traditional coil stock red, and have bend it into that groove, come down the face of it, and then come out again, and then go 10 inches up to give you that 20-inch band. I think at that, I know for a fact that that window line, we don't have another seam in the panel.
Okay, I guess I was back to the EFS part of it or what or not. I guess I was thinking that that's a painted stripe, but not so.
No,
A
it's
different color
it's
on the
aluminum.
EFS.
It's aluminum maintenance tree.
Well, at this point, we've had a great deal of discussion. Is someone prepared to make a motion? And I'm going to ask that it be a very specific motion so that the petitioner knows exactly what's being required of them. I don't think we can just say, let the planner take care of this.
I just have one more question.
No, and we can continue the
It's not a
discussion.
big deal, but I mean, I'm going to do some math, Jamie. On the setback, is there a setback requirement for this building from the warehouse next door, or is that not? an issue?
No, because we're not dealing with lots, we're dealing with units. So
So
there's
it's
no
the whole thing then,
setbacks.
so, okay.
The only setback that he truly has is the gas utility.
Because that was my question, because of the height, and I thought that 10 feet, that's a separate thing, that's fine.
Correct.
Let's just review then. We've got an EFIS building, we've got a red stripe, shed roof at the entry. And is that all you wanted there, Commissioner Miller?
I'm sorry, I was reading it. I didn't-
EFIS, red stripe, the shed roof at the entry. Was there anything else on the entry that you wanted updated, changed?
Just the masonry, if that's what the consensus is.
Okay.
And 16 and 24 inch openings. 16 west, 24 on the north and south. The red band is already on there, that's acceptable. I guess, did we ever discuss more landscaping on the north side instead of concrete right up against the building?
The petitioner had said that the concrete was requested by staff.
That's fine. So then the only other remaining thing, which is probably a bigger discussion, is having the front part, or half the building, or a third of the building, or whatever you want to call it, be a different dimension than the back. I know that Tom doesn't want that, but.
A different dimension or a different material?
Well, like, no, different, so that you have this, I mean, the whole goal is trying to make this not look like a behemoth building. So if you take 185 feet in the back, it would be 179 would be better on the front 1/3. So you'd have a building that was here. I know I was going to object to this, but basically, so that this portion would be 2 feet or 3 feet smaller. That's gonna make the building look totally different. Everybody's trying to change the look of this building, and that would do it more than anything. Now you'll have a reveal on the sides right here, and all the way up on the roof, you'll have a siding as well. You don't change the pitch of the roof. Leave the pitch of the roof be the same.
Mr. Kelnick, perhaps Commissioner Miller, you could show Mr. Kelnick what
He
you're.
knows what we're talking about. I do. And I understand the whole operation. I don't understand the whole operation, but I mean, I understand how having the inside dimensions be not exactly the same as the out, front and back is a potential problem. I mean, it was addressed on the other building because of the wetlands. That's totally different. That's probably a 20-foot offset. More than that? Yeah, at least.
Microphone, please.
I'm Sean Smith from Sticks Academy. I've been working with Tom with this project. I understand your concerns. From a functionality position, it would really, really throw everything off on the inside portion of it to change the dimensions and everything like that. It throws everything completely off for how we have it designed.
I got an idea. Instead of making the front of the building 185 feet, why don't you make it 195 and you'll have more room? That'll make it look bigger. Never forget that idea. I mean, it's a behemoth building by anyone's term. And we can put stripes on it, and we can do all kinds of things. But changing something is gonna make it look less behemoth.
Well, I think if we go with taller trees on the north end would help.
I totally agree with all of that.
But if you look at the drawings, of the inside layout, not so much the outside layout, it'll help give you some kind of idea
Do
of.
we have that?
You should.
Where it says batting cages.
Correct. See. So I mean, again, from a operational perspective, to give you an idea, the big, which I'll call the field house, is an infield that the Milwaukee Brewers would play at, or boys that are 13 and older.
You're talking about the balance of this square?
The square, right.
Well,
So-
your argument is weak already, because what you can do is go right to the staircase here and set it in 2 feet, and go right to this other door.
No, no, hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, you know, just like on Major League Baseball field, the bases are 90 feet long. The pitcher's mound is 60 feet 6 inches. Boys that play baseball at U12, they're 70 feet long. So these lines that you see, which I'm calling in the field house, you can see where it says play field 1, 2, 3, 4 inside. It's going to be divided off by curtains or netting. The dimensions of what needs to be operable from an age perspective is in that field house. So to bring it in 2 feet,
Whatever you're referring to, we do not have.
I have one that says batting cages.
Everyone in the audience who wants to see this, or anybody on the plan commission, you have to come up here and look over their shoulder when they're doing this.
You got a natural infield. It's for the big boys. Okay. But then if you see these lines here, right? You can still have infields for smaller kids here. Now, keep in mind, everything, this is home plate again. Everything is set on the outside perimeters of straight lines. That's what makes it functional. So if I had a 2 foot, 3 foot, call it whatever you want, bump out, and then went the whole length of the building here, there's not any room and again, this has all been laid out with professionals, for people, from an inside perspective. You know, you definitely need places for kids to sit, be protected, and again, all this around the perimeter is gonna be netting. So regardless, if you kick this in 2 feet, it isn't gonna work. If we made this out, this section here is set from an inside operational perspective.
Perfect. Here we go. I don't know how we got to this point without understanding this. This is what I want made smaller, which doesn't matter at all, because you can shrink the storage, you can shrink whatever, you can move the stairs, you can put this piece right here.
Then I can't get up the steps. Everything is the code.
Let me redesign this whole thing. You see this little viewing area? It just shrunk by 2 feet because you moved your steps. I mean, this is rocket science. This batting cage. Yeah, basically, exactly. And this can go down 2 feet, it's not gonna hurt anybody. This goes back 2 feet, your mechanical room may shrink, I don't know what you got in there, but I'm sure they can.
We got the big paint, right? And you slide all this over, you got a 10-foot-4 entrance.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got the choice. Right decisions are wrong. In this case, you make the right one, you're on your way. You make the wrong one, you're on your way. We clear? Yep. All right, that took care of about an hour's long discussion. What's that? No, I think you was misunderstanding. I
So-
wanted the back part shrunk, I wanted the front part shrunk.
So back to our list. We've got EFS, we've got the red stripe, shed roof at the entry and a masonry entry, 16-inch overhangs on the east and west, 24-inch overhangs on the north and south, full-size trees and some additional tree plantings to screen from Highway 164, and a 2-foot bump in, I'll call it, in the front of the building that would extend to the length of the batting cages. And I think that's what you had drawn
2 feet on each side.
on each side, correct, to break up the building.
Correct. 4 feet
Yes.
total. So it'll be 181.
So, Mr. Kelnick, is that all going to be acceptable to you?
Yes.
All right.
You're gonna have to say it again, but the one is too vague.
Okay.
more trees and bigger trees is not specific enough.
Okay, no dwarf trees, full-size plantings.
Well, but you gotta,
And-
this is a full-size tree. If you put a sapling, you've got to give either the caliper of a tree or the height of a tree.
Mr.
It's
Chairman.
Generally, the caliper of a tree
Can
is
I-
what they say on the landscape.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question about that and concern somebody to help answer? I understand the issue with the gas easement, but on that, the south side, I mean, we're 10 feet off the property line with a building that's 30 feet at the eve and over 40 feet at the ridge. You're not gonna plant, I'm not sure what planting species that is. You're not gonna get that thing snugged right up to the building. Can he, with Mr. Kunzi's pleasure, what or not, can he plant further south than that? Or, I mean, we're just fooling ourselves. I mean, I'm envisioning, I know even Chief Buchholz knows all kinds of stuff, but I mean, I'm looking at Scotch pine, Norway pine, Black Hill spruce, something like that, that I mean, is going to be 15, 18, could be 15, 18 feet in diameter at the bottom of the maturity. I mean, you're not going to plant that stuff closer than 10 feet to the building, I don't think.
No, and
So how do we do that? Can he plant across that dotted line or not? Otherwise, we're just fooling ourselves.
I was speaking specific to the face of the building facing 164.
He's talking about the south side. We have dwarf trees there now that aren't gonna get.
Right.
You said how feet, 12 feet? Did you
Yeah,
say
12 feet. So back to Mr. Kunze. Is Mr. Kelnick going to be able to plant some trees outside of unit?
The sheep would love anything tasty. They're gonna have to be in some kind of cage till they're 4 foot or more tall. I got it pastured right now, so that's, you can plant in there.
What type of
But-
tree do
So there's
sheep
a
not
fence there.
desire?
Yeah, it depends on the time of the year. If it's snow, anything looks better in a snowbank. I don't mean to be flippant, I'm sorry. Obviously, most things that they won't eat would be toxic to them, and that wouldn't be acceptable to me. And even some like the flowering crabs and stuff, that fruit's not any good to be put in there. So do I have a problem with him planting there? I think Tom and I can work that out. There's going to have to be something with, T-posts and woven wire or something to keep the livestock away, I guess. So, because that's what that's getting used for right now is pasture.
So Planner Rybarczyk, what would the caliber of specific to perhaps needled trees? What would that need to be in order to meet your criteria from a points perspective? What is your normal caliber?
It's all based on the zoning code, so it's not to my specification.
The zoning code spec, my apologies.
Mr. Chairman, while he's looking that up, I mean, I think we're facing here, you look at the landscaping plan, I'm not faulting it, but this basically says foundation plantings in our point system. That makes some sense if I've got a building that's 12 or 15 feet high. Foundation plantings on a building of this height, it's meaningless. Doesn't make any sense. We're not looking at trying to put something along the foundation like you're putting perennials in front of your house or something. That's totally different.
The unfortunate part is that our zoning code doesn't distinguish that, and that's one of the, I think what Mr. Kelnick has pointed out, it's one of the flaws of our code is that it doesn't take into consideration the height or the massing of the buildings.
It may be, but that's the very reason we're talking about it tonight at great length.
The zoning code mentions calibers of 2 inches and 3 inches for most of the plantings.
Here's what I would suggest. In the area where the proposed septic area is, in that open space, that there be some larger needled trees. And then into the Quincy property, same thing, hiding, trying to not hide, but cover the south exposure of that building also.
Soften.
Soften. And they'll obviously, as Mr. Quincy said, have to be surrounded by some fence.
Yeah, good luck. Don't drive down my road a long time.
How many sheep are there?
Oh, right now, we got about 19.
And some species are faster growing, so we won't be, I mean, we'll actually be able to see them in our lifetime. Yeah.
How many trees are we talking about on the south exposure? Suggestions?
We're talking the thing I'm thinking about, and again, those maybe should even be staggered a bit off the building or what or not. I mean, if you're talking about some of those that are going to get halfway decent size, I mean, even if they're planted on 20-foot centers or something like that and staggered north and south a bit, I mean, maybe you're talking about 8 of them. I'm just grabbing something out of the air. I mean, they'd cover, what, 140 feet, something like that, 8 to 10.
Okay, so staggered 20 feet. Is anybody taking notes on this? Staggered 20 feet. And what's the offset stagger?
I mean, something in the range. I mean, if you get a landscape architect doing it, we're not here playing landscape architect for a living, but I mean, I would think if those things were roughly 20 feet east-west, and I mean, maybe some of those things should be 8 to 10 feet off the building, and the others should be another 4 to 6 to 8 feet off the building, so they get a little bit of north-south stagger, and plant them roughly at 20 feet on center or something like that. I don't know. Let's probably spread out 8 of them, something like
20
that.
feet on center. And
East-west.
I think east-west, and I
Yeah.
think you just described a 10-foot stagger.
North-south?
Yes.
Yeah, 10 feet, 8
Okay.
feet, 6 feet, something in that range,
All
say
right.
8 feet.
Let's move to the front of the building. In the proposed septic area, I don't think, Mr. Janelli, you can't plant on a mound, can you? But you can plant around it. Okay. So you've got 180 feet in the front. And if you did the same 20-foot separation, you'd be at 9 trees up front. Would that be agreeable on the south exposure of the building?
No, you're on the east side.
East exposure, sorry.
You're talking about conifer or deciduous?
I am still talking about needled trees so that you have 12-month softening.
Black is spruce. Ain't gonna grow much fast.
Where are you putting those, John?
Like this.
Black Hills, we won't see them grow 5 feet in my lifetime.
Austrian pines, white pines, they're
Right.
faster growing.
Right.
Why not?
So let me ask, I mean, I don't want to, the 12 dwarfs on the south side, they're gone, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going with roughly, did you say 12? 12 trees staggered?
I think if they're on 20-foot centers, I mean, you don't even have to go to
Gives you
the
12.
absolute end of it. I mean, you probably get 8 of them there, 8 or 9 or 10 at 20-foot centers.
8 to
will cover
10.
the
Okay.
majority of that side of the building.
And then going on the east.
With a 10-foot stagger off
Yeah,
the building,
yeah.
okay?
But then all this, again, it's a bad point system, but all this stuff along the building, is that gone on the east side now?
Negative.
So you're keeping
You
that.
want the Japanese use?
Yeah. So what you're doing, why don't you bring your plan on up? The suggestion would be that you plant in this area on about 20-foot centers again, fast-growing needled trees. Chief, do you, I heard you mention white pine disease.
No.
Suggestion?
Something fast growing, looking at arborvitae, I suggest you use some kind of an arborvitae, white cedar, and I also suggest that you mix it with some deciduous, maybe some sugar maple or some hackberry or something like that. So you have a combination.
And that's what, he's got maples shown already. So maybe we mix the arbs in with white cedars in that area?
You're not gonna have crab on this.
Yeah, but that's up here, cheaper back here. Agreeable?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. So back to our list then. We've got the 16-inch overhangs on the east and west, 24 in the north and south. Full-size trees on the south exposure as described, staggered 10 feet on 20-foot centers. A 2-foot bump in on the north and south of the building, and along the area where the septic, the green space where the septic is located, we're going to stagger arbs, white or red cedar, and the maples that are shown.
Agree.
All right, and we've got the shed roof on the entry, masonry entrance, red stripe, and EFIST building. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Flanagan and Commissioner Miller.
Okay, so this is a site plan and plan of operation approval, subject to all the standard conditions.
Correct.
And all the conditions that were put on, subject to the rezoning and the condominium.
Any further discussion? Commissioner White.
I don't know if we could add this to maybe that, since we're not doing a lot of masonry, that would face the street, that we could maybe add something to the note saying that we made the petitioner add more plantings to what we anticipated at first.
Would you like that just put into the minutes?
Yes, if we could.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Kelly?
So really with what you told me, we've completely eliminated the point system for the town's code.
I don't think we've eliminated the point system. We've
Modified
added to it.
Okay.
We've added to it.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Well, okay, that's a good point. We should make it subject to the planner confirming that the new plan meets the requirements of the code.
Based on the increased size of the plantings that are being put on the south side and the additional plantings that are being put on the east side, and I didn't hear very many being removed, he's going to exceed the code, but I will double check it when the new landscape plan is submitted.
The only thing we took off were the dwarfs on the south. And we're adding more than that. Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to E, the accessory building for Ronald Tritz, but he has asked to be removed, postponed. That leaves only number 10.
Second.
I got Renee first.
Okay, well,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
What a Chinese fire drill. What?